Chapter 594. Tan Xiao originally wanted to stay in the imperial capital for a few more days and wait for the Virus Research Institute to confirm that the infectious disease problem had been completely solved before returning to Star City. However, due to the misunderstanding from his clansmen and the fact that he was too lazy to explain, he finally decided to leave tonight. After making a few phone calls, Tan Xiao drove back to Star City overnight. What made him speechless was that just as he arrived at Southgate Town, he found that his parents had yet to rest and were chatting in the living room in pajamas. "Son, you're in love?" It was 2 o'clock in the morning, yet Su Lingyun didn't have the slightest sleepiness as she greeted him with a face full of joy. Scratching the back of his head, Tan Xiao said with a helpless expression, "Isn't this news spreading too fast? Mom, Mu Wenying and I are only nominal boyfriend and girlfriend, a fake couple. There are too many boys pursuing her, and there are also a lot of girls pursuing your son. Therefore, the two of us came up with a plan to pretend to be a couple to block those pursuers." Fake couple? Su Lingyun and Tang Yunda were confused by the news. The couple didn't sleep in the middle of the night because they knew that their son had come back from the imperial capital. They were looking forward to the news, but they didn't expect that they would get such fake news. In a flash, Su Lingyun was like a deflated balloon as she sat back on the sofa listlessly. She yawned and said, "Son, I heard that the girl named Mu Wenying is a good girl. If you work hard, it's possible to turn fake into real. Anyways, I'm a bit sleepy, so I'm going to sleep." Tang Yunda gave Tan Xiao a pondering look before he shook his head and walked toward the room. Turning fake into real? Tan Xiao looked at his parents' backs as they left. His heart was filled with a depressed mood. After returning to the second floor, Tan Xiao took a shower, changed into a new set of pajamas, and comfortably went to bed. A few hours later, Tan Xiao woke up from his sleep. He was in high spirits after washing his face and rinsing his mouth, and then began to cultivate. He had now cultivated to the peak of the viscera transformation stage. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels had been tempered, and their strength was thousands of times stronger than that of ordinary people. He was only one step away from reaching the stage of moving his qi and blood. Only when he reached the realm of moving his qi and blood could he easily use more advanced spells. However, he also knew that it was better to be anxious than to eat hot tofu. Reaching his current cultivation level was already the result of obtaining too many fortuitous encounters. If he wanted to break through again in the future, it would probably be very difficult. It would be very difficult to achieve it without a few years. However, he wasn't in a hurry. A tall building starts from the ground. Star's tyrannical body of Star's first stage, Qi cultivation, to the last stage, 9 controlled dance steps, was only the foundation of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. Only by laying a solid foundation would he be able to cultivate more steadily in the future. It had only been half a year since he had returned from the immortal world, and he had already improved by leaps and bounds. Therefore, in the future, if there was no great opportunity, even if he could break through, he would have to suppress his progress. Phew! Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Tan Xiao opened his eyes slowly. Although Southgate Town had a beautiful environment, it was still considered as a city after all. Let alone being compared to 9 Dragons Island, even Walled Hill Village couldn't be compared to the spiritual qi concentration here. Without the rich spiritual qi as a medium, his absorption speed of the star's power had weakened a bit. Tan Xiao got out of bed and opened the curtains, only to find that it was unexpectedly snowing heavily outside. Although Star City wasn't in the south, it didn't belong to the north either. Every year, only during the new year, there would be a light snow. Unexpectedly, it was still a few days away from the new year, yet it was already snowing. What's more, it was the feather-sized snow that was rarely seen in Star City. The outside world was wrapped in silver. Even the proudly blooming winter plum blossoms were covered by the pure white snow. Through the misty snowflakes, there were almost no residents moving around. Only a lot of security guards and property management personnel were sweeping the snow on the concrete road of the villa complex. Long Shueyao? Tan Xiao's eyes stayed on the tall girl. He suddenly remembered that he had promised to treat her to a meal to express his gratitude for helping him get his driver's license. But it had been a long time, and he still hadn't fulfilled his promise. A few minutes later, Tan Xiao neatly dressed himself. In order to not attract attention, he wore a down jacket that his mother had bought for him and then walked outside. Back in the immortal world, Tan Xiao had seen the world of ice and snow, so he didn't care about this feather-sized snow. After greeting a lot of familiar security guards, Tan Xiao came in front of Long Shuiyao. He looked at her shoveling the snow and said with a smile, "Let me help you." Long Shuiyao straightened her head. When she saw Tan Xiao, she immediately said with a smile, "Mr. Tang, you're a busy man. I haven't seen you for a long time. Did you just come back from college?" Tan Xiao took the shovel in her hand and nodded with a smile. "I just returned to Star City last night. I didn't expect to find heavy snow today." Long Shuiyao said with a smile, "It's really a coincidence that you came back. If the snow had blocked the road, I'm afraid it wouldn't have been easy for you to come back." "Indeed," Tan Xiao said with a smile. That's right. Do you have time at noon? I'll treat you to a meal." Long Shuiyao stared blankly for a moment before she immediately laughed and said, "Why did you suddenly think of treating me to a meal?" While shoveling the snow, Tan Xiao said, "About the driver's license issue, I said I would treat you to a meal. But it was delayed because of some things. It just so happens that I received a call from Long Zhenyu on the way back yesterday. He learned that I was coming back and called me to have a meal. Let's go together." Long Shuiyao shook her head and said with a shallow smile, "Don't worry about the driver's license issue. The reason why it went so smoothly was not all my credit. I won't join in the fun since you men are having a party. I have other things to do at noon, so I'm afraid I can't get away." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Since you have something to do, then I'll invite you another day." Long Shuiyao gently nodded. Suddenly, she seemed to recall something and said, "Don't you men always have an appointment at night when you drink and eat? If I remember correctly, Long Zhenyu played mahjong with his friends all night last night, so it would be very difficult for him to get up at noon, right?" "How do you know he played mahjong all night?" Tan Xiao was surprised. "Have you forgotten what our relationship is?" Long Shuiyao said with a smile. "We had dinner together last night, and he said it at that time." Tan Xiao suddenly understood. Long Zhenyu and Long Shuiyao were cousins, so there was nothing special about having a meal together as a family. After thinking about it, he said, "Then I'll go see him at night." Long Shuiyao slightly smiled and said, "If that's the case, then how about going with me to a place at noon? Or to—" Tan Xiao was confused. "You'll know after you come with me," said Long Shuiyao mysteriously. "Let's get to work first. We'll leave after we're almost done with our work." Tan Xiao revealed a smile. He didn't care about Long Shuiyao's behavior of keeping him guessing. In any case, he just came back today and didn't have many things to do. Going with her was better than being nagged at home by his parents about the matter of boyfriend and girlfriend. An hour later, the snow was a bit lighter. Tan Xiao returned home and had breakfast. He then read books in the study room for more than 2 hours before he received a call from Long Shuiyao. Compared with the desolation in the morning, the villa area was now a lot more lively. Many young children, accompanied by their parents, were making snowmen and having a snowball fight. They were having a lot of fun. "It's only 10 o'clock. Why are you going so early?" Tan Xiao came to the front of the property management center and looked at Long Shuiyao, who was standing in front of an off-road vehicle. "I still need to buy some things," said Long Shuiyao with a slight nod. "It'll be noon by the time I'm done." "What are you going to buy?" asked Tan Xiao. "Are you going to pay for everything I buy today?" asked Long Shuiyao with a smile. Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, "If I can pay for a meal with something, then it's no problem." "It's a deal." Long Shuiyao smiled a bit proudly. Immediately after, the duo drove to the nearby shopping mall. What made Tan Xiao surprised was that Long Shuiyao had obviously contacted the mall staff in advance and bought 20 to 30 down jackets, as well as a lot of shoes and socks. From these things, it could be seen that they were worn by children less than 10 years old. "Long Shuiyao, are we going to the orphanage?" With the help of the mall staff, the duo finally moved all the things to the car. As soon as the car started, Tan Xiao asked, "I knew I couldn't hide it from you," said Long Shuiyao with a smile. "That's right, we're going to the orphanage. Moreover, it's the worst one in Star City. Tan Shio nodded without a word. Going to the orphanage to do good deeds was something he was quite supportive of. Many children who had lost their loved ones were very pitiful. If the orphanage's living security was poor, they would suffer the most during the winter months. At the Blue Star Orphanage, there was a dilapidated orphanage in the suburbs of Star City. There were a total of 6 staff members, including the dean. The dean had fallen a few years ago, resulting in a broken leg and becoming a cripple. The other 5 were responsible for grocery shopping, cooking, and daily living. As for the orphanage, there were 32 children who had been adopted. Among them, there were 4 who were less than a year old. Snowflakes were falling at the orphanage's entrance. Next to the rusty signboard, the Dean Wu Xiufan, who had a lame leg, was holding a broken umbrella and waiting. She had received a call from Long Shuiyao yesterday, so she had been coming to the entrance since the morning. She had come out more than a dozen times in the morning and had been waiting for more than half an hour. Creak. The off-road vehicle stopped at the orphanage's entrance. After Long Shuiyao and Tan Shio got off the car, Long Shuiyao took the lead to walk to Wu Xiufan. She looked at Wu Xiufan, whose lips were a bit purple due to the cold, and said with concern, "Dean Wu, why did you come out? It's such a cold day and it's snowing." "It's all right. I'm wearing thick clothes," Wu Xiufan said with a smile. She was wearing thick clothes and looked a bit plump, but the cotton wadding on the shoulder of her cotton jacket was exposed. It was obvious that the needle and thread had exploded, and there were several patches on other places. As for her feet, she was actually wearing a pair of single shoes. Standing at the side, Tan Shio secretly sighed inside. On the way here, he had heard Long Shuiyao talk about the situation of the Blue Star Orphanage. Naturally, he knew that this orphanage was funded by a few kind-hearted people, and the government's help was simply negligible. Chapter 595. Following Long Shuiyao's introduction, Tan Shio and Wu Xiufan simply got acquainted. Then, he sat in the driver's seat and watched the two enter the orphanage. Only then did he start the car and slowly drive in. The Blue Star Welfare House was very dilapidated and its basic facilities were not perfect. Although there were several swings in the big courtyard, they could only be provided for children to play. Newspapers were pasted on the windows of many rooms in the 2-story building, and 2 windows were covered with plastic sheets. Tan Shio's eyes suddenly narrowed. He was keenly aware that in the corridor downstairs, a boy holding a small wooden stick was standing quietly next to the cement pillar. He seemed to be looking at the world of fluttering snow outside, but his eyes were devoid of spirit. His face was frostbitten and red with some bloodstains. His little hand, which was not holding anything, was stretched out as if to catch the falling snowflakes from the sky. Tan Shio parked the off-road vehicle in front of the building. He didn't immediately help Long Shuiyao and Dean Wu move their things, but walked toward the little boy instead. "Who are you?" The little boy didn't look back and didn't even move his neck. Tan Shio slightly furrowed his brows and said, "You can't see?" The little boy smiled. The smile on his frostbitten little face was very full as he said, "Who said I can't see? I know that it's snowing now, and I also know that you came to me." "That's right, there was a car sound just now. It seems that Aunt Shuiyao drove this car before. The sound is similar to the last time. Did you come with Aunt Shuiyao?" Tan Shio nodded. He suddenly remembered the little boy's situation and quickly said, "Yes, I came with your Aunt Shuiyao. We bought some clothes and daily necessities and came over to give them to you. Little guy, aren't you cold here? Do you want to go back inside?" The little boy shook his head and said, "It's quite cold here, but I want to sober up." What? Tan Shio was confused by the little boy's words. Sober up? What does he mean? Tan Shio voiced the question in his heart, but the boy did not rush to answer him. Instead, he walked out of the corridor with the wooden stick and came to the snowy courtyard. He opened his arms and took 2 deep breaths. Then, he said aloud, "My mother once told me that you don't need to use your eyes to see many things. You can see them with your heart. When I am calm, my heart will be calm. When I am calm, I can see the sky, people, and other things. Just like this snow, if others can see it, I can also see it." Saying that, he gently lifted the wooden stick. Although his hand was trembling in the cold weather, the other end of the stick was very stable. This unscientific behavior made Tan Xiu's pupils suddenly contract. He clearly saw the little boy use the tip of the wooden stick to easily catch the biggest snowflake in front of him. That's right. It was the biggest. Tan Xiu's eyesight was sharp, and he could tell with a glance. "What's your name?" The boy said. "You can call me Little Blind. That's what they call me." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment, and then asked again, "How old are you?" The little boy thought about it and said, "I should be 15 years old, right?" "That's right. I was blinded when I was 8 years old. After living in this orphanage for 7 years, I'm 15 years old now." 15 years old? Are you kidding me? Tan Xiu looked at the little boy who looked like he was 7 or 8 years old. It was hard to imagine that he was already 15 years old. In an instant, Tan Xiu appeared in front of the little boy. When the little boy's ears twitched, he reached out and grabbed his wrist. Blood in the veins? Qi in the bones? Tan Xiu looked at the little boy in front of him in disbelief, and his heart beat faster. He had seen countless races and encountered countless kinds of special physiques, but he had never encountered a situation like this boy's. However, he had seen records in ancient books. The blood in the veins will not die, and the qi in the bones will not die. It was rare to meet in billions of years, and it was an ice body. A boy with an ice body? According to the records that Tan Xiu saw, the ice body only appeared on girls. Now, it actually appeared on a boy's body. This strange situation left him at a loss. "Uncle, are you on fire?" Little Blind suddenly asked. Tan Xiu's lips squirmed a few times before he asked, "Why do you ask?" Little Blind said, "Your body is very warm, just like when I was near the fire. It's very comfortable. It feels like the sound of the blood flowing in my veins is louder than usual." Tan Xiu was shocked. "You can hear the sound of your blood flowing in your veins?" Little Blind said with a smile, "Yes. Not only could I hear the blood rushing through my veins, but I could also hear the grinding of my bones. By the way, what I can hear the most is the sound of my heart beating. It's like a drum. Sometimes, it's so loud that I can't sleep well." Suddenly, he seemed to recall something, and the smile on his face receded like a tide. His expression turned a bit sad as he shook his head and said, "Uncle, you shouldn't believe me, because they don't believe me. Even the Dean and Grandma Wu don't believe me." Tan Xiu looked at Little Blind with a complicated expression. Countless thoughts were churning inside his mind. After a long while, Long Shuiao's shout came from the distant corridor. He looked at Little Blind and said, "I mean, if I'm willing to adopt you and take you away from here, would you like to go with me?" "Why do you want to adopt me?" Little Blind asked back. "It's not because you're pitiful. It's because I think you're very good," Tan Xiu said. "I can train you into a very powerful person in the future." Little Blind shook his head and smilingly said, "I won't refuse you. It's because I'll be a burden for Grandma Wu and the other aunties and uncles if I stay here for another day. However, I've never thought about becoming a big shot in the future. I want to see more things and have the ability to help Grandma Wu." "I just checked your eyes," said Tan Xiu. "I can't cure it with Chinese medicine, and I'm afraid it's also difficult to use Western medicine. But if you really come with me, I guarantee that you'll be able to see things in the future. Not with your eyes, but with your heart. Do you know? I'm actually the same as you. I can see a lot of things even if I close my eyes." "Really?" Little Blind was surprised. "It's true." Tan Xiu nodded. "My current ability is limited. I can only see a range of 300 to 400 meters if I close my eyes. I can't see anything further than that. However, I believe that I'll be able to see further once I become stronger. Perhaps one day, with just a single thought, you'll be able to see the scene thousands of miles away." "Are you talking about the heavenly eye, Uncle?" asked Little Blind curiously. "You know about the heavenly eye?" Tan Xiu was confused. "Grandma Wu once told me that monks can open their heavenly eye," said Little Blind with a smile. "That's right. I've seen Erlang Shin in the Journey to the West on TV. He can open his heavenly eye, the third eye." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. He didn't explain but directly picked him up. While walking inside, he smilingly said, I can make you see more and further than opening your heavenly eye in the future. Uncle, don't look at me just because I'm young. I'm already 15 years old. You don't have to coax me with such childish words. But I can smell Auntie Shuiao's scent. She's right in front of me. Long Shuiao indeed appeared in front of Tan Xiu and Little Blind. Her eyes were a bit complicated, with sympathy, pity, and a bit of worry. She raised her hand and gently stroked Little Blind's head, saying, "Little Hanin, are you being disobedient again? It's such a cold day and everyone else is warm inside. Why did you come out? Look at your little face. It's frozen." Auntie Shuiao. Little Blind laughed. "I'll get frostbite, but I won't get sick. Did you forget that I slept in the snow for a night and didn't get sick the next day? You little guy, you're getting more and more disobedient," said Long Shuiao snappily. "Auntie Shuiao won't come to see you anymore if you dare to run out again." Little Blind pointed to Tan Xiu and said, "Auntie Shuiao, this uncle said he wants to adopt me." Long Shuiao stared blankly and quickly looked at Tan Xiu with an inquiring look. "He and I hit it off very well and I like him very much," said Tan Xiu. "Since he'll become a burden for everyone in the orphanage, then let me take him away. Also, I'll donate 2 million yuan to the Blue Star Orphanage. I'll find a construction team to help the orphanage repair the houses and buy a batch of daily necessities, desks, chairs, and books at the beginning of next spring. Also, I'll find a way to find some teachers to come and teach these children." "Really?" Long Shuiao was pleasantly surprised. "A monarch never goes back on his words," said Tan Xiu. "Pfft." Long Shuiao couldn't help but laugh and said with a smile, "Do you really think you're an emperor? But I'll remember your words. If you don't do it, I'll ridicule you when I see you in the future." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. He felt that he should do more. Suddenly, a bright smiling face appeared in his mind. Tian Xiaoming? After putting Little Blind down, Tan Xiu took out his mobile and dialed the number of Li Hongji, the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. After his call was connected, he directly said, "President Li, during the National Day holiday, when I was giving medical services in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, a girl secretly uploaded a video of me giving medical services to the internet. Her name is Tian Xiaoming, and she seems to be a network anchor. Can you help me find out how to contact her?" "No problem. Just wait for my good news," said Li Hongji with a smile. "That's right, you should have returned to Star City, right? When will you come to the hospital again?" "In a few days," said Tan Xiu. "But don't disclose the news that I'm going to give medical services, lest the situation during the National Day occurs again." "All right." Li Hongji readily agreed. After hanging up the phone, Tang Xiu looked at President Wu, who was limping out of the room again. He knew what he had to do. Although he couldn't do much, he was willing to do what he could as long as it was within his ability. Chapter 596. The disabled had extraordinary willpower in certain aspects, which was the most suitable word to describe it. A disabled body with a strong will. Through his contact with Little Blind, Tan Xiu found that the darkness in front of him did not wear down his willpower. Instead, it made him adapt to the darkness. He was like a pine tree in this world of cold winter snow, standing proudly and stubbornly. "President Wu, I want to adopt this child." Tan Xiu greeted her and spoke straightforwardly. President Wu's expression froze for a moment before a complicated expression appeared on her face. In those 7 years, she was like half a mother. When the little blind boy's world had just lost its color, she was the one who cared for him and helped him walk out of his pain. Even when his parents got into a car accident, she was the one who helped him arrange their funeral. To be honest, President Wu was happy that Tan Xiu wanted to adopt him, but deep inside, she was still very reluctant. "Can you give me a reason, Mr. Tang? After all, Henin is..." President Wu wanted to say something but hesitated. "There are 2 reasons," said Tan Xiu seriously. "First, I like him. I don't see a depressed side in him, but an optimistic and upward mentality. Second, one of my identities is a Chinese medicine practitioner. I want to take him with me and try to treat his eyes with medical skills." President Wu's eyes instantly widened and an ecstatic look burst out from her eyes. Her lips trembled a few times as she hurriedly asked, Mr. Tang, can you really cure Henin's eyes? I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's better for him to go with me than to stay here, said Tan Xiu. Of course, the premise is that you agree. I'm willing. Of course I'm willing, said President Wu without hesitation. If I can restore Henin's sight, I'll dig out my eyes and give them to him. Don't worry since you're willing, President Wu. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. I'll take care of him as if he's my own brother. Furthermore, I also learned about the welfare house from Long Shuiyao, so I decided to donate 2 million yuan to the welfare house, hoping that it can solve some of your difficulties. In addition, when the weather warms up next spring, I will find a construction team to help renovate the orphanage. I will also find some teachers for the children to teach them cultural knowledge. Director Wu's body froze. She couldn't believe her ears. She had fantasized countless times that a rich and kind-hearted person would donate to the orphanage, but that was just a fantasy after all. Her wish had not come true for many years. Fortunately, there were warm-hearted children like Long Shuiyao who would often send some money, clothes, and daily necessities. 2 million. If the orphanage had 2 million, the living conditions of the children would definitely be greatly improved. At the very least, they would no longer have to wear patched clothes, eat meat every 2 days, and burn charcoal stoves in the cold winter. Thank you, Mr. Tang. Director Wu wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and bent down with the help of his walking stick. Tan Xiu hurriedly supported her and said, Dean Wu, there was a time when there was a great flood. The phrase I heard the most was, when one side is in trouble, help comes from all sides. What I have done is within my power to do. You don't need to thank me. It's just a token of my appreciation for the children here. It was a snowy day in the 12th lunar month, yet Director Wu's heart was warm. Tan Xiu's words touched her heart. Just when she called Tan Xiu and Long Shuiyao to go to the house, Tan Xiu received a call from Li Hongji and gave Tan Xiu Tian Xiaoming's cell number. Long Shuiyao, you go to the house with Director Wu first. I'll make a phone call. Tan Xiu ordered as he turned around and walked to the side. Star City, Fame Grand Garden District. Wearing cartoon pajamas, Tian Xiaoming was bored and sitting on the balcony of her home. As the hanging basket constantly swayed, her eyes looked at the falling snowflakes outside with a faint expectation. Ever since she reported on Tan Xiu's matter, she had become a popular anchor on the broadcasting platform. Her die-hard fans alone had more than 100,000. And there were hundreds of thousands of fans in the broadcasting room every day. Could be said that, after that incident, she gained both fame and fortune. However, there were still some disadvantages. For example, she often met fans in real life. Whenever she appeared in public, some fans would ask her for an autograph. Alas, it's not easy to be a star. Even if I want to go out and play in the snow, I'm afraid of attracting attention. Most of the people in this community already know me. Should I discuss with my parents and buy a house somewhere else? Tian Xiaoming propped up her chin and thought. I'm a star. I'm a big star. The ringtone of her mobile phone suddenly sounded, startling her. She hurriedly picked up the phone and looked at the number displayed on the screen. It was an unfamiliar number from the city. Hello, I'm Tian Xiaoming. I'm Tan Xiu. Can I ask you for a favor? Tan Xiu? I don't know. You're calling the wrong number. What did you say? What's your name? Tian Xiaoming just wanted to say that she didn't know. Suddenly, a handsome face appeared in her mind and she immediately exclaimed. Tan Xiu. The voice from the phone came again. Tian Xiaoming jumped down from the hanging basket. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she hurriedly asked, Are you the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? Divine Dr. Tang? Yes, it's me, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Tian Xiaoming was so excited that her speech was somewhat incoherent. She said, Divine Dr. Tang, hello. I'm your loyal little fan. You can call me Little Mengming. I'm very excited. Am I dreaming? How can I receive a call from my number one idol? Tian Xiaoming, let's not joke around first. Tan Xiu said with a smile. The reason I called you this time is that I need your help with something. I don't know if you have time now. Tian Xiaoming suppressed the excitement inside her and immediately said, I have time. Idol, you're looking for me. Even if I don't have time, I still have to squeeze some time. Tell me, what do you want me to do? I'm willing to do it. Actually, it's like this. Tan Xiao said with a smile, I'm now in an orphanage in Star City. The conditions here are very poor and the society rarely pays attention to it. I think you're a live streamer, so I'm wondering if you can come here? It's best if you can do a live broadcast in this orphanage and tell the general public about the situation here. I hope you can get everyone's attention and help. Live broadcast? Orphanage? Tian Xiaoming blinked her eyes. Ecstasy directly exploded inside her heart. Ever since the live broadcast of Tan Xiao at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, the number of fans in her live broadcast room had skyrocketed, bringing her fame and fortune. But some of her fans also believed that Tian Xiaoming's live broadcast had returned to its previous state recently. Many people even called for Divine Dr. Tang to be a guest again. An opportunity. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Tian Xiaoming took a deep breath to stabilize her mood and said, Please wait for a moment, idol. I'll get the address. Also, I'll go out immediately and guarantee to get there as fast as possible. A few minutes later, Tian Xiaoming hung up the phone and went straight to the study room. She then turned on the computer and entered the live broadcast room. That's strange. The lady streamer is actually online? Did she change the time of today's live broadcast? Goddess Meng Meng is here. Where are all the Meng Meng fans? There won't be a new theme, right? The last time Goddess Meng Meng suddenly entered the live broadcast room was the live broadcast of Divine Dr. Tan Xiao's program. Is there a surprise? Tian Xiaoming took a deep breath and looked at the countless messages and tens of thousands of online fans. Then she said, Greetings, dear fans. I suddenly opened the live broadcast room. Many of Meng Meng's diehard fans have asked whether there will be a surprise today and whether there will be a new theme today. Now, Meng Meng will tell everyone that you guessed it right. I received a call from the young divine Dr. Tan Xiao of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital a few minutes ago. As for the specific reason why divine Dr. Tang called me, I'll keep you in suspense for now. I hope that Meng Meng fans can call for more fans to come while I'm rushing there. I'm sure you'll be able to see divine Dr. Tang and perhaps there will be other surprises. I'll withdraw first. See you later. Tian Xiaoming looked at the countless messages left by her Meng Meng fans. Each and every one of them shouted, excited, and expectant words. She felt warm inside. After exiting the live broadcast room, she immediately packed her things and quickly ran outside. Blue Star Welfare House. After Tan Xiao sent the address and name to Tian Xiaoming, he went to the president's room on the second floor of the small building. Because the environment here was simple and there were too few rooms, Dean Wu didn't even have an office for herself. There were a lot of things in the whole room, but it was not messy. Tang Xiao invited an online anchor to spread the news about the Blue Star Welfare House. Although Dean Wu didn't know much about the specific work of an online anchor, she was very excited to be able to publicize the Blue Star Welfare House and make more social groups know about them. At 12:30 noon, Tan Xiao and Long Shuiao followed Dean Wu to get food for the children. More than 30 children who hadn't returned their new down jackets were gathered in a large room. They sat in front of a long table with bowls and chopsticks in front of them. Pairs of eager eyes looked at Dean Wu, Tan Xiao, Long Shuiao, and two other staff members who came in with the food. Ring, 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 Tan Xiao's mobile phone rang. Seeing that it was Tian Xiaoming, he directly asked her to go to the big room on the first floor. At the entrance of the Blue Star Welfare House, Tian Xiaoming hung up the phone and directly logged into the live broadcast room with her mobile phone. The moment she appeared in the live broadcast room, she looked at the number of fans displayed above. Her eyes suddenly turned as big as a copper bell with disbelief in her eyes. 760,000? 760,000 people are waiting in the live broadcast room? And the number is still increasing. However, when she glanced at the gifts bestowed by the fans, her heart thumped madly. Despite having experienced the live broadcast at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, she was still scared. I'm not dreaming, am I? Dear children, Don't think that you won't give me monthly votes just because I don't ask for them. I'm just updating more than 6,000 words a day, so I'm embarrassed to ask for monthly votes. In fact, I really need monthly votes. Chapter 597. Tian Xiaoming's shocked expression was a bit adorable, causing all the audiences who were waiting for her to drool. Countless comments were made in the comment section due to her expression. Without exception, all of them said that Tian Xiaoming was adorable. Tian Xiaoming rubbed her eyes. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly found that the number of her fans had changed again. It was more than 761,000 just now, but in just half a minute, the number of her fans had skyrocketed to 770,000. I'm scared. Tian Xiaoming calmed herself down and spoke with a moved expression. Immediately after, she pointed the camera at the entrance of the Blue Star Welfare House and deliberately paused on the plaque at the entrance for a few seconds. Then she pointed it at herself and said, "Mingming's fans, whether you are Mingming's hardcore fans or new fans who just came for the first time, Mingming wants to tell everyone that today's live broadcast is here. It's a children's welfare house in the suburbs of Star City. Divine Dr. Tan Xiu, told me about this place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that there's such a dilapidated and old children's welfare house in Star City. Now, everyone, please follow Mingming's footsteps and go inside to see Tan Xiu and the children of this welfare house." After saying that, Tian Xiaoming tried her best to capture the surrounding environment with the camera lens and kept walking inside. She stopped in front of the small building for a few seconds and then walked toward the fourth door on the east side. When she opened the door and saw the situation inside, her footsteps suddenly came to a halt. "Hello, everyone. I'm Tian Xiaoming." Tian Xiaoming's eyes immediately fell on Tan Xiu. She waved and walked over, bowed and said, "Hello, Divine Dr. Tang." Tan Xiu, who was giving steamed buns to the children at the moment, let out a faint smile when he heard her voice. He nodded gently and looked at the mobile phone in her hand, asking with a smile, "Are you doing a live broadcast?" "Yeah, I am." Tian Xiaoming gently nodded. Tan Xiu then smiled at the camera and said, "Hello, everyone. I'm Tan Xiu. Originally, I didn't expect that I would take the initiative to contact Tian Xiaoming today. But after the last conversation as well as the help she provided to the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital after her live broadcast, the idea of looking for her sprouted in my mind. I would like to thank Tian Xiaoming for coming. Actually, there's only one reason why I invited her here. He hoped that more people would pay attention to the Blue Star Welfare Institute and care for the children here. At the same time, I hope that everyone can pay attention to not just the Blue Star Welfare Institute. There are many poor children's welfare institutes in our country, and there are even more poor children who need help. My personal ability is limited, so I hope that everyone can show their love, care for them, and help them. Thank you all." Finished. Tan Xiu looked away from the camera, nodded at Tian Xiaoming, and continued to distribute the steamed buns to the children who didn't receive them. Tian Xiaoming looked at Tan Xiu in a daze. Her eyes shifted from Tan Xiu to the dilapidated big room where the children had already started eating. It was a very simple meal. A big pot of stewed cabbage and vermicelli, with some sporadic meat smell inside. Many porcelain bowls with holes were filled with white porridge, with nothing but rice grains. The white steamed buns were exuding steam, yet the children were wolfing them down as if they were eating the most delicious food in the world. Tian Xiaoming's eyes fell on Long Shuiyao next to her, and she asked with difficulty, "Big sister, they only have this one dish?" Long Shuiyao was perfectly aware of Tan Xiu's purpose and was grateful to Tan Xiu for doing all this. Upon hearing Tian Xiaoming's inquiry, she didn't look at the camera on the mobile phone, but nodded silently and said with a forced smile, "You came at the right time today. The stewed dishes are good because there's meat in them. Usually, these children can only eat meat once every 2 or 3 days." Tian Xiaoming was shocked. Her original family conditions were ordinary, but at least in 3 meals a day, there would still be meat in one of the dishes. But these children were still growing and they could only eat meat once every 2 or 3 days. And this meat, Tian Xiaoming's eyes fell on the dishes. She desperately tried to find a bigger piece of pork, but in the end, she was disappointed. Because the biggest piece of pork she found was only the size of 2 thumbs, a thin piece. In the live broadcast room. Now, the number of fans had broken through 810,000. The comments section, which had been constantly rolling, was now silent for a long time. Everyone's eyes followed the camera and looked at the food that the children were wolfing down. Too much attention. Their eyes overflowed with tears, and their hearts were sour. A particularly uncomfortable feeling of oppression made them not know what to say. It was not just the food. They also clearly saw the clothes worn by the children. They were tattered cotton-padded jackets, and many of them were patched. One of the little boy's shoulders had cotton wadding exposed. However, what made them the most uncomfortable was that these children, the oldest of whom looked to be in their teens, and the youngest was placed in a small cart at the side. Their thin little faces were obviously frostbitten, and some of the children even had frostbites on the back of their hands, and there were even traces of blood. Tian Xiaoming was silent for a long time. When Tan Xiao came back to her, she said to the camera, "Mingming's fans, Mingming really wants to cry. But I'm afraid that crying in front of these children will be very shameful. They are so pitiful. Mingming's heart is aching." A few seconds later, the comments section in the live broadcast room began to roll crazily. Countless people expressed their feelings and looked forward to doing something. Even the live broadcast screen was full of all kinds of gifts that almost blocked Tian Xiaoming's appearance. Tian Xiaoming raised her head and slowly waited for the tears in her eyes to fade. Then she lowered her head and seriously said, "From today until 12 o'clock on New Year's Eve, all the gifts and money that Mingming's fans have received will be donated to the Blue Star Welfare House. Mingming will also fork out 100,000 yuan of her own money, hoping to buy more clothes and meat for these children. Mingming hopes these children can have a warm and happy new year." The imperial capital. In an office building where the Star Live broadcast platform was set up. At this moment, the chairman, Wei Qing, was watching Tian Xiaoming's live broadcast room. His face was a bit pale, and his slightly chubby body was also trembling. In his eyes, sparkling and translucent tears glistened. Pa! A cigarette was lit. Wei Qing looked up at the ceiling, trying not to let the tears in his eyes flow down. The children in the Blue Star Welfare House evoked his memories of the past. He was also an orphan. From the age of 5 to 12, he lived in an orphanage in a small city in the northwest. The harsh living conditions back then, and the desire to eat a meal of meat back then, made his eyes very, very red. He was adopted by his adoptive parents. From the time he graduated from college at the age of 22, he never returned to that small city or the orphanage. It was only after he graduated from college at the age of 22 and received his first month's salary that he mailed half of it to the orphanage where he lived. In the following years, he also sent some money. But after the orphanage's director passed away due to illness, he never sent any money again. If it weren't for today's live broadcast, he would have forgotten the orphanage where he once lived and the difficult living conditions there. Go to the live broadcast room. Wei Qing suddenly got up and strode to the live broadcast room. Seeing more than a dozen staff members busy inside, he immediately said in a deep voice, "Switch to Tian Xiaoming's live broadcast room. I want to speak in person." The staff members looked at each other in dismay, but they still carried out Wei Qing's order. At the Blue Star Welfare House, Tian Xiaoming looked at the continuous gifts in the live broadcast room and felt very warm inside. This act of spreading positive energy made her feel proud and prideful. She was grateful to Tan Xiao. Regardless of the number of her fans, which had exceeded 1 million at the moment, just these gifts alone made her feel touched. Tian Xiaoming's expression suddenly moved. She saw that her live broadcast window was divided into 2 halves, and a slightly chubby face appeared in the other half. "Mengmeng, I'm sorry to disturb your live broadcast. I'm Wei Qing, the chairman of the Star Live Entertainment Culture Company." Wei Qing's attitude was very kind and there was an inexplicable emotion on his face. Tian Xiaoming was stunned. Her live broadcast platform was the Star Live Entertainment Culture Company. In other words, this middle-aged man who suddenly appeared was her big boss? Hello. Tian Xiaoming stammered. Wei Qing nodded and said, I've been watching this live broadcast of yours. To be honest, this is the live broadcast that touched me the most since the establishment of the Star Live broadcast. I'm very grateful to you because you let me see my past self. The time that I almost forgot has come back to me again. Actually, I'm also an orphan who grew up in an orphanage. I still remember. Wei Qing's narration was very slow, but very clear. After he finished talking about what happened in the orphanage, he finally said with a bitter expression, "I regret that I didn't go back to see them all these years. Although the dean who took care of me has passed away, there are still so many aunts and uncles who took care of me, as well as my brothers and sisters who grew up with me in the orphanage. Today, I suddenly realized that I'm really heartless. I've become rich and powerful, but I've forgotten about them. I don't want to apologize. I just want to make it up to them. Mengming, please thank Divine Dr. Tang for me. I'll immediately return to that small town after saying these words. I'll go back to the orphanage that I don't know whether it still exists or not. I want to use my actions to make up for my mistakes. I want the other children to no longer be like me, living a life where they don't have enough to eat and warm clothes to wear." Tan Xiao quietly stood next to Tian Xiaoming, watching Wei Qing's appearance in the live broadcast room and listening to his heartfelt words. An inexplicable emotion surged inside his heart. It was very warm. Chapter 598. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Tan Xiao, Long Shuiyao, and Tian Xiaoming left the Blue Star Welfare House. They had done enough today. How many people would pay attention to the Blue Star Welfare House and what kind of changes it would bring were unknown to the trio. Tan Xiao had transferred 2 million yuan to the Welfare House's public account through a bank transfer. Even the 100,000 yuan promised by Tian Xiaoming was also transferred to the Welfare House's public account. "I'll treat you to lunch." Tan Xiao didn't let Long Shuiyao drive this time. He personally drove the car and drove with the two women on the road. "Tan Xiao, I must treat you to lunch today." Long Shuiyao shook her head. "If you don't agree, I'd rather not have lunch today." But Tan Xiao was confused. "I just wanted to ask you to come and help me move some things," said Long Shuiyao with all seriousness. "But I didn't expect that things would turn out like this. I'm very excited, but I'm also very grateful. Although my salary is very high, I can't support the entire welfare house by myself. You've done a lot today. I want to use my ability, even if it's just a meal, to express my gratitude to you." Tan Xiao was stunned. After a while, he silently nodded and said, "Since it's your treat, then let's go to a higher class hotel today. I'll choose the place. Is there any problem?" Long Shuiyao smiled and gently shook her head. It was unknown when Tian Xiaoming, who was sitting in the back row, had turned on the live broadcast room. The dialogue between Tan Xiao and Long Shuiyao was all broadcasted by her. In the live broadcast room, a lot of fans who had dispersed began to come back one after another. Many fans even wanted to know how luxurious the higher class hotel Tan Xiao mentioned would be. Of course, there were also many people talking in the comment section, asking if Tan Xiao was just putting on a show. After all, they had just finished the live broadcast of the welfare house, and now they wanted to eat and drink to their heart's content. Kofu's spicy hot pot. After parking the car outside, Tan Xiao said with a smile, "I heard that the spicy hot pot is very popular among girls. You too won't have any problem with spicy things, right?" Long Shuiyao didn't care what she ate, so she just smiled and said that there was no problem. After Tian Xiaoming got out of the car, she pointed her cell phone at the Kofu Mala saucepan signboard. She pouted and typed quickly, "This is the legendary high class, high class, high class." Instantly, the hundreds of thousands of fans in the live broadcast room all laughed, and all kinds of happy emojis were flying all over the place. Some fans with bad taste even quickly commented, "Luckily it's not Mala Tang. Otherwise, the cute goddess would become a cooked duck and fly into someone else's bed." Tian Xiaoming looked at Long Shuiyao, who was waving at her. After replying, she watched Long Shuiyao and Tan Xiao enter the store and then said in a low voice, "I'll tell you a secret. Divine Dr. Tang is actually a nouveau riche, and he must be reluctant to let Sister Long spend money. I didn't tell you before, but he donated 2 million to the Blue Star Welfare Home today. Alright, now that the secret has been exposed, I feel so good. Meng Meng is starving, let's go comfort Meng Meng's stomach first. The live broadcast ended. Tian Xiaoming put away her cell phone and quickly chased after them. The hundreds of thousands of fans in the live broadcast room were shocked by Tian Xiaoming's words. 2 million? Although they had time to waste time in the live broadcast room and most of them had good living conditions, 2 million was still a very large number in their eyes. Divine Dr. Tang? He just donated it like that? For a time. The fans in the live broadcast room were full of praise for Tan Xiu. Lunch ended. Tan Xiu didn't leave with Long Shuiyao, but Long Shuiyao sent Tian Xiaoming home. Taking advantage of the free time in the afternoon, Tan Xiu went to his family's restaurant. There weren't many guests because it wasn't mealtime. Tan Xiu wandered around and found out that his mother didn't come today. After calling to inquire, he learned that his parents had rushed to the imperial capital early this morning. Tan Xiu wanted to ask them why they suddenly went to the imperial capital, but his mother, Su Lingyun, unexpectedly didn't say anything for a long time. Forget it. I'll go find Long Zhengyu. Tan Xiu left the restaurant and called Long Zhengyu. He learned that he was on the way to the Long's dining hall. Therefore, Tan Xiu also directly rushed there. This time, when he arrived at the Long's dining hall, he wasn't stopped by the security guards because they had recognized Tan Xiu. There were even 2 security guards who looked at Tan Xiu with some fear in their eyes. As he entered the hall inside, the melodious piano music entered his ears. While walking toward the elevator, Tang Xiu quickly glanced at the direction of the piano. He was stunned for a moment, and his footsteps instantly halted. It was because the girl playing the piano turned out to be Andy. Why is she here? Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he turned around and walked toward Andy. However, he didn't disturb Andy. After coming near her, he gently leaned on the corner and quietly watched her play the piano. 5 or 6 minutes later, when the last note of the piano fell, Tan Xiu applauded and said with a smile, "Well played." Andy turned her head. When she saw Tan Xiu, a happy expression immediately appeared on her face. She quickly got up from the chair and ran to Tan Xiu's front, saying with a happy expression, "Boss, why are you here? I also want to ask you, how did you come here?" Tan Xiu asked with a smile. "Why are you playing the piano in the hall?" Andy giggled and said, "Our company's finance department is going to have dinner here tonight, so I came out in advance to book a room. After seeing the piano, my interest was piqued and I wanted to play a song. Are you also here to book a room, boss? Do you want me to book a room for you?" "No need. I have an appointment with a friend," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "Are you going to have dinner here tonight, boss?" Andy giggled. "Would you like to join our company's finance department for dinner?" Tan Xiu thought for a while and said, "Let's talk about it tonight. I'll go there if I have plenty of time in the evening. But if I have something urgent, then forget it." Andy nodded with a smile. "I'll be very happy if you can come, boss." That's right. You've become popular again this year. The whole internet is now reporting about you." "I've become popular again?" Tan Xiu was dumbfounded. He looked at Andy and asked with a puzzled expression, "What's the reason?" "It's because of your work in the Blue Star Welfare House." Andy said with a smile, "Now the whole internet is saying that you're a real philanthropist, a kind-hearted person. Especially that Goddess Meng Meng secretly told everyone that you donated 2 million yuan to the Blue Star Welfare House today. Everyone is praising you." Cough, cough. Tan Xiu coughed a few times with a helpless expression on his handsome face. He had never thought about this before. He was just thinking about how to make the Blue Star Welfare House receive more attention from the public, so that he could help those children in the future and make their lives better. Who would have thought that even the matter of him donating money would be revealed by Tian Xiaoming? He was not afraid of anything now, but he was afraid of becoming famous. Earth and the immortal world were different. Even if one was famous in the immortal world, others would only be in awe and fear, and no one would dare to provoke them. But Earth was different. Once he became famous here, he would be like a big star. Paparazzi would come and take photos of him, and countless fans would surround him. Even some people with status and background would look at him with strange eyes. This situation was completely different from his original intention. He just wanted to live a quiet life, immerse himself in making a fortune, and obtain a lot of cultivation resources to help him go further and faster on the path of cultivation. At the same time, he could also accompany his parents and his relatives, enjoying the warmth of family affection. Forget it. I'll keep a low profile for now. No matter what kind of trend it is, it can't stand the erosion of time. Maybe there won't be many people who will remember this matter when school starts next year. Tan Xiao comforted himself. Andy knew that Tan Xiao had an appointment with a friend, so she didn't pester him. With a bit of excitement after seeing Tan Xiao, she went to the hotel's manager to book a room and chatted with the manager's good sister. In the presidential suite. After Tan Xiao pushed the door and entered, he saw Long Zhengyu hugging a girl and chatting. Although there was incense in the room, it was still shrouded by the smell of smoke. Long Zhengyu patted the girl's shoulder and said, "It's just a little beauty I happened to meet. Go. If I have nothing to do tonight, I'll find you and have a heart-to-heart talk." Alright. The girl quickly glanced at Tan Xiao, and a blush appeared on her beautiful face. She then stood up obediently and lowered her head, brushing past Tan Xiao and quickly leaving the room. Tan Xiao shook his head and forced a smile. "How come I never found out that you're actually a prodigal son in love before? Didn't I hear that you have a serious girlfriend? Where's she now?" Long Zhengyu rolled his eyes and listlessly nestled on the sofa, saying, "Can we still be friends? You're really touching my sore spot." They broke up. That girl was ambitious and ambitious. She wanted to rely on her own hands to make a career for herself. So she went abroad. Tan Xiao came to sit opposite him and said with a strange expression, "She broke up with you because of her so-called struggle?" Pa. Long Zhengyu grabbed a lighter and a cigarette. He lit one up and took a deep puff, and then helplessly said, "Can we change the topic? Else I'll really vomit blood." Tan Xiao was surprised and said, "I originally wanted to change the topic, but your last sentence really aroused my curiosity. Tell me, we're all brothers. Since we've already broken up, what's the point of hiding it? It's your treat tonight." Long Zhengyu took a deep puff and said as the smoke came out. "No problem. Put it on my account," said Tan Xiao without hesitation. Long Zhengyu forced a smile and said, "As a matter of fact, I was dumped by that girl. She's the first woman to dump me in my life. Do you know the reason why she wanted to break up with me? Distant water can't quench present thirst. Fuck her, I'm not thirsty, but she..." Chapter 599. Tan Xiao was dumbfounded. Despite having a big hole in his brain, the woman's reason was like a thunderclap to him. Distant water can't quench present thirst? Wasn't this too fucking exciting? Tan Xiao looked at Long Zhengyu with some sympathy and said with a dry smile, "You're actually very lucky, Long Zhengyu." "Lucky?" Long Zhengyu stared blankly with a confused look in his eyes. "That's right. I said you're very lucky," Tan Xiao said with a straight face. "But because that woman is obviously an old driver. It's reasonable to say that the transportation is very convenient nowadays, and it's only a day's flight. She can call you or come back if she's thirsty. But she doesn't think so. Maybe she wants to be a bride every night, but you can't satisfy her. Rather than saying goodbye to you now, it's better than being cuckolded countless times after you get married, isn't it? Although it's winter now, you can keep warm no matter what color the hat is." Get lost. Long Zhengyu was amused by Tan Xiao's words. Tang Xiao grabbed a cigarette and put it on the corner of his mouth. He lit it up and took a few puffs, then smilingly said, "There are millions of beauties in the world. How can a dignified man give up the whole forest just for a tree? There's a saying that if the old doesn't go, the new won't come. For example, that little beauty just now is very good." Long Zhengyu gave Tan Xiao a contemptuous look and snorted, "Don't make it sound so beautiful. I think you're just a giant in words, but a dwarf in action. I heard that you and the first beauty in the imperial capital, Mu Weining, are in love. What about Ouyang Lulu? What about Kang Xia? There are several other beauties I know, what about them?" Tan Xiao was speechless. He didn't expect that Long Zhengyu would change the topic to fall on his head. He recalled what he just said and recalled the problems he had with so many women, and suddenly felt a headache. Long Zhengyu looked at Tan Xiu's deflated appearance and suddenly burst into laughter. See? See? You have the physique of a tiger, but you have the guts of a cat. Tan Xiu angrily said, Tell me, is it that blabbermouth by Tao? Or was it Chu Yi, that fellow who couldn't keep the door shut? If I find out, I'll have to sew them up from top to bottom. Ha! Long Zhengyu laughed even more happily. After a while, he said with a smile, I heard that the Long's dining hall recently has a chef who can cook the Manchuhan imperial feast. Many people came because of the fame, but they were not willing to make a move. Unless it was a guest of the presidential suite, they would only show a few moves. That's a promise. Tonight is your treat. Please your grandpa. Tan Xiu cursed in his heart, but he nodded bitterly. Since it wasn't time to eat yet, the two gradually changed the topic to business. Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu had a lot of business cooperation, such as Tan Xiu's benefits in Walled Hill Village, the cooperation in the construction of the new city, and the reconstruction project of Nine Dragons Island. As for Walled Hill Village, due to a major construction accident, the construction schedule had been delayed a lot. Although the Long family had expanded the scale of the construction team, they still couldn't catch up with the expected progress. Coupled with the sudden snowfall today, the first phase of the construction that was originally planned to be completed before the new year seemed impossible. Originally, the Walled Hill Village's development was expected to be completed by June next year. But because the weather is not good, I'm afraid it will be delayed until July or August. Once the project is completed, you can receive your Heavenly Palace mansion. Tan Xiu nodded. Although he cared about the Heavenly Palace mansion in Walled Hill Village, he was more concerned about the development of Nine Dragons Island. However, since Long Zhengyu was talking about Walled Hill Village, he didn't want to appear too anxious. I'm studying in Shanghai, so I rarely go back to Star City. You're responsible for monitoring the progress of the project there. It doesn't matter even if it's delayed for a few months. Long Zhengyu nodded with a smile and said, Then, let's talk about the new city. Nowadays, the development and construction of the new city has been in full swing. We've hired 5 large construction companies from all the provinces in the country, and the construction teams are all on the job. The regulatory authorities are also closely monitoring it. Whether it's the new city's planning, the quality of the real estate, or the speed of the project, there's no problem at all. I'm not the one managing it, but with my father's ability, there are several other families who are in charge of it. You can rest assured. In June next year, a luxury villa area in the new city's Area A, with 4 residential areas, 2 shopping malls, and 4 commercial streets will be officially opened for business. The amount of investment from each of our families, plus the amount of loans from the bank, adds up to more than 100 billion yuan, all of which will be invested in the project in Area A. Therefore, what we have to do now is to wait for the sale of the properties in Area A after the opening. Kang Xia is indeed a business genius. After her proposal, we've decided to build the largest amusement park in the country in Area B. Although it may be a bit lacking compared to the Disneyland amusement park, the scale, construction, and entertainment will add a lot of new elements. Its existence will attract real estate investors and buyers, and it will no longer be limited to Star City. When the time comes, it will be aimed at the wealthy people in every city in the country. As he spoke up to there, Long Zhengyu's eyes turned very bright, with a bit of excitement and expectation. Seeing that Long Zhengyu stopped, Tan Xiu slowly said, What if the sales are not good? Long Zhengyu couldn't help laughing and said, The sales are not good? Don't joke with me. Just after the construction of the new city started, we've received inquiries from rich people from all over the country, including some very wealthy companies. They only want a guarantee that the new city will be built according to the design plan. As long as it's achievable, they won't hesitate to buy real estate here. Many large enterprises, including many international luxury jewelry brands in China, have been contacting us, hoping to get a good location when the time comes. Listen well, they won't rent it, but they will buy it. Tan Xiu was very confident in his design. Once the new city was built, it would definitely become a landmark building and place. At that time, the economic development of Star City would probably advance by leaps and bounds like a rocket. I don't care about the management, construction and sales issues. I only need to see the benefits. I believe Kang Xia can do it well. Now, let's talk about Nine Dragons Island, said Tan Xiu with all seriousness. The reconstruction speed of Nine Dragons Island is much faster than expected, said Long Zhengyu. Due to the two-pronged sea and air transportation, coupled with the construction team working day and night, the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island has greatly changed. I originally thought that the reconstruction would be done in September next year, but now it seems that it will be completed by August at the latest. To be honest, I really don't understand why you're so anxious to rebuild Nine Dragons Island. This degree of reconstruction is just burning money. Tan Xiu didn't want to tell the truth to Long Zhengyu. Nine Dragons Island was, after all, too important. He couldn't afford to let anything go wrong before the reconstruction was completed. Therefore, he fabricated a reason and slowly said, "You should know that I'm a disciple of the Tang family." The relationship between the Tang family and the Yao family was originally very tense, with constant frictions behind the scenes. It was just short of tearing all pretense of cordiality and going to war. Nine Dragons Island is the place I personally chose. I originally planned to leave a way out for the Tang family. That's where the Tang family can survive after losing to the Yao family. I didn't expect that the Yao family would launch an attack so early, and my Tang family finally won by using a scheme. However, since the Nine Dragons Island project has been started and a lot of money has been invested, I might as well finish it directly. It can also be a way out for the Tang family later. Long Zhengyu suddenly realized and sighed. That old patriarch of the Tang family is really amazing. To think that he actually thought about this matter so thoroughly. Nine Dragons Island is indeed a good place. It's the right choice to leave a way out for the Tang family. I've given you the money, so I'll leave it to you, said Tan Xiu with a smile. What kind of land my Tang family will have in the future depends on you. Clan land? Didn't the Tang family win? Asked Long Zhengyu, confused. Why do you still need to place your clan land there? Unpredictable winds and clouds are unpredictable, and people have their own fortunes and misfortunes. Tan Xiu faintly said. Who can clearly see the domestic situation in the future? Besides, there's no such thing as an ever-victorious general in this world. You can win for a while, but it's impossible to win forever. In case the Tang family encounters a crisis in the future, it's not impossible to have Nine Dragons Island as our clan land after our defeat. Long Zhengyu gave a thumbs up and praised, Elder Tang, I really admire you more and more. Tan Xiu couldn't help but laugh. It was all an excuse he made up. Nine Dragons Island would be his base camp in the future. This was his own idea, and it had nothing to do with his grandfather, Tang Guosheng. However, since Long Zhengyu was willing to misunderstand, then he might as well let him. The doorbell rang. Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu exchanged glances and immediately asked, Did you invite someone else tonight? Long Zhengyu shook his head. Tan Xiu nodded. He got up and walked to the door. After opening it, he saw a well-dressed middle-aged man. Tan Xiu remembered that he seemed to be the deputy manager of the Long's dining hall. Hello, Mr. Tang. I'm Chang Hao, the general manager of the Long's dining hall. I'm afraid there's something I need to delay you for a while, said the middle-aged man with a smile. Tan Xiu nodded slightly and invited him to enter the hall, asking, What's the matter? It's like this. I don't know why, but the news of you coming to our Long's dining hall has been spread out. Now there are a lot of reporters outside the Long's dining hall. They want to interview you. You see, said Chang Hao. Interview me? Tan Xiu was confused. Why would they want to interview me? Did you forget that you seem to have participated in a live broadcast program today? Chang Hao was surprised. Not only did it cause a huge impact on the internet, but it also caused a huge sensation in all aspects of society. Although I'm traveling, my mind has always been on the update. Quiet Knight found himself hopeless. He came to Japan but didn't go to Kabuto but stayed in the hotel to write his story. He's too dedicated. Brothers and sisters, are you surprised? Are you touched? Can I have a monthly ticket? Chapter 600. The more you're afraid of trouble, the more trouble will come knocking on your door. Using this sentence to describe Tang Xiu was the most suitable, because what he was most afraid of now was facing the media. Looking at Chang Hao's surprised expression, Tang Xiu firmly said, "Tell them that I don't want to be interviewed. If any media is still unforgiving or sends paparazzi to follow me, I will use the law to defend my privacy. At the same time, I will also judge the immoral behavior of those media to the general public." Chang Hao didn't expect that Tang Xiu would go all out to reject such a good opportunity to become famous, and even threatened him with his words. But Chang Hao couldn't figure it out, but he didn't dare to question Tang Xiu's words. If he were to say who he was most afraid of in the world, it would be Tang Xiu. He was the witness and beneficiary of Tang Xiu's bloody killing of so many enemies last time. He respected Tang Xiu, but he also feared Tang Xiu. "I understand your meaning, Mr. Tang. I assure you that no media will be allowed to come in and disturb you. If you have any other instructions, please let me know promptly," said Chang Hao respectfully. "I'll have to trouble you then." Tang Xiu nodded. Chang Hao said a few polite words and then left. Tang Xiu looked at Long Zhengyu, who had a strange expression on his face. He spread his hands and said with a forced smile, "I really didn't mean it. It's just that I became a saint and showed a kind heart, which led to the current situation. Hurry up and eat. Go home and sleep after eating and drinking. I won't go out for the next few days." "What exactly is it?" asked Long Zhengyu. Tang Xiu told him about going to the Blue Star Welfare House with Long Shuiyao today. Finally, he said with a helpless expression, "I've decided to adopt Little Blind. But I'm sure that if I go to the Blue Star Welfare House again in the near future, I'll be discovered by others. There's a 90% chance that it'll be the media. Therefore, I can only ask Long Shuiyao to help me bring Little Blind to Southgate Town." With a smile on the corner of his mouth, Long Zhengyu gave a thumbs up to Tang Xiu and praised, "You're really ruthless sometimes. But more often than not, you express your kindness incisively and vividly. I can't see through you, but I like your character very much. If you were in a wuxia novel, someone like you would belong to the category of people who are neither good nor evil, free and unrestrained." Tang Xiu laughed involuntarily and said, "Don't joke around. Are we going to order food here to eat? Or do you want to go to a private room in the restaurant?" Long Zhengyu smiled and said, "Let's eat here." Suddenly, Long Zhengyu's expression moved. He pondered for a moment and then smilingly said, "You've caused such a big commotion in Star City and the whole country knows that you're in Star City. How about we escape and go to Blue City to play? That brat Huang Su has called me several times recently. He said that he and a few friends of his have opened a club in Blue City and asked me to join in the fun." Tang Xiu thought for a while before he shook his head and said, "Forget it. In case we run into trouble after all." Long Zhengyu interrupted Tang Xiu and smilingly said, "Don't say, after all. You're so young, yet you're acting like a little old man. It's settled then. Tonight, we'll go to Blue City. I'll call Huang Su and ask him to arrange the food and wine. I won't rip you off tonight." "Really?" Tang Xiu's eyes lit up and a smile immediately appeared on his face. A strange expression appeared on Long Zhengyu's face as he looked at Tang Xiu and asked, "Don't tell me the reason why you're tempted is because of tonight's meal? Even if it's the Manchu Han Imperial Feast's several specialties, I'm afraid it's only a few 100,000 yuan. You shouldn't go that far, right? A few 100,000 yuan? Tang Xiu rolled his eyes at Long Zhengyu. Spending a few 100,000 yuan for a meal, and only for the two of them, was simply extravagant to the point of making one's hair stand on end. With the thought of saving money, Tang Xiu said, "Since you've kindly invited me, it'll be absolutely unreasonable of me to refuse. Come on, let's go now. Though I've never been to Blue City, I heard that it's less than 2 hours to drive there." Upon hearing Tang Xiu's words, Long Zhengyu was even more sure that Tang Xiu agreed to save money. Such a conclusion made him at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. After all, Tang Xiu's current assets were at least tens of billions, yet such a super nouveau riche actually cared about a few 100,000 yuan for a meal. It was really admirable. A few minutes later, Tang Xiu and Long Zhengyu quietly went to the underground parking lot. After sitting in the BMW X5 off-road vehicle driven by Long Zhengyu, They started the car and headed outside. What made Tan Xiao helpless was that just as the car drove out of the underground parking lot's exit, several reporters waiting outside ran over with cameras in their hands. Speed up. Tan Xiao didn't want to deal with the media reporters, so he immediately ordered. Long Zhengyu slightly nodded and sped up the car. Before the reporters could surround them, they had already entered the main road and merged into the traffic flow on the highway. Light snow was still falling from the sky. Although the road was cleaned, it was still not easy to drive on. After entering the highway, the two were somewhat helpless since the road was very slippery since the car didn't have anti-skid chains, so they could only drive slowly. The journey, which should have taken less than 2 hours, took them more than 3 hours to reach Blue City. That's strange. What the hell is Huang Su doing? His phone hasn't been answered yet. The BMW X5 off-road vehicle drove on the highway in Blue City, moving forward under the illumination of the street lights. After throwing his mobile phone to the side, he frowned and muttered to himself. Since we can't find him, then let's just find a place to eat something and then find a hotel to stay in first, said Tan Xiao. Let's wait until we can contact him tomorrow. Long Zhengyu shook his head and said, let's go straight to his club. That brat sent me a text message, so I know the specific address of his club. Tan Xiao looked at the time. It was nearly 9 o'clock, the most bustling time for those clubs, so he nodded and no longer spoke. Clear Lake Club. It was an extremely high-class club in Blue City. Although it wasn't a private club, those who could come here were all rich people. The few of them could casually have some fun here, and it was impossible for them to come down without spending tens of thousands of yuan. Furthermore, the most important thing was that the Clear Lake Club had just opened for more than a month. It was opened by several famous young masters in Blue City and had a very strong protection, so there was an endless stream of guests who were willing to spend the night here. When the car arrived at the entrance of the Clear Lake Club, it was stopped by the security guards and registered before it was allowed to enter. Further, according to the signs inside, it quickly stopped in front of a 5-story, crescent-shaped building that was more than 100 meters long. After bypassing the fountain and stopping at the entrance, Long Zhengyu got off and threw the car key to the waiter, asking, "Is Huang Su here?" The waiter obviously knew who Huang Su was. He looked at Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiao suspiciously and found that both of them were unfamiliar faces. Then he immediately said, "I'm sorry, I don't know." Long Zhengyu casually asked. Seeing that the waiter said he didn't know, he didn't want to pester him and walked into the building's entrance with Tan Xiao. Splendid and magnificent. This was Tan Xiao's first impression of this place. The ground was golden, the roof was golden, and all kinds of murals were painted in a flamboyant style. In the hall of 200 to 300 meters, hazy crystal lamps were illuminated with several other colors of lights, making it look very classy. "Welcome. May I ask what kind of game the two of you would like to play?" "I'll take you there," said a woman in a black suit, wearing a headset and a smile. "Take us to the best box you have here. We'll have a meal first and then we'll play something else," said Long Zhengyu. "All right, please follow me." The woman in a suit took the two of them to the 3rd floor in the elevator. After passing through 2 corridors, they finally stopped in front of a box. After pushing the box's door, she made a gesture to invite them inside and said, "Two sirs, this is the best box in our club." Long Zhengyu walked in a few steps and looked inside. Then he immediately sneered and said, "I want to ask you something. Are you trying to bully your guests? Or do you think we're from the countryside and have no experience? If this is the best box in your Clear Lake Club, we'll leave immediately." The woman in a suit hesitated for a moment and carefully said, "Two sirs, this is indeed not the best box in our club, but the price-performance ratio is really good. You can enjoy delicious food for only tens of thousands of yuan at most if you dine here. As for the highest grade box, the price is... Since we dare to order your best box, it proves that we're not short of money," said Long Zhengyu. "Don't dawdle and take us there." The woman in a suit was somewhat indignant. She had good intentions, yet the other party reprimanded her, which made her have a bad impression of Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiao. She cursed them inwardly as nouveau riche and took them to the 4th floor again. "Sir, the 4th floor is the hall with a total of 18 rooms. the number 1 Supreme Hall and the number 2 Soaring Dragon Hall are not open to the public, and there are guests in the number 3 to number 6 rooms. If the two of you agree, you can dine in the number 7 Seacraft Hall. Alright. This time, Long Zhengyu didn't make things difficult for the woman in a suit and followed her to the Helen Hall. He looked at the spacious space of hundreds of square meters inside and the luxurious decoration inside, which was obviously several grades better than the box on the 3rd floor. After Long Zhengyu and Tang Xiu took a seat on the sofa, Long Zhengyu straightforwardly said, "I didn't eat anything at noon, and I haven't had dinner until now. So tell your chef to hurry up and bring me some of your club specialties." "Drinks?" The woman in a suit gently nodded with a glint in her eyes. "Do you have God's nectar here?" asked Long Zhengyu. The woman in a suit stared blankly for a moment before shaking her head and saying, "Sorry, we don't have it here." In fact, the Clear Lake Club did provide God's nectar. But due to the scarcity of it, it was impossible to sell it to the guests unless the several bosses asked for it. Of course, there were also exceptions, such as those who could sit in the number 1 Supreme Hall or the number 2 Soaring Dragon Hall. Thank you for your enthusiastic support, brothers and sisters. Today's first chapter is presented to you. Please give us your recommendation votes and monthly votes. If the monthly votes are in the top 90, we'll continue with the 3rd chapter today. Chapter 601. There was a lot of God's nectar inside Tan Xiu's interspatial ring, but he didn't want to reveal the existence of his ring, so he didn't take it out. Long Zhengyu, however, frowned and said, "Since there's no God's nectar, then there's no need to take it. There's something I need you to do." A displeased expression flashed in the suited woman's eyes, but she still endured it and said, "Please speak." "Call your manager. I have something to ask him," said Long Zhengyu. The suited woman stared blankly for a moment before she directly pressed the button on the headset and called, "Manager Li, I'm Hu Wenwen, the supervisor of the 4023 dining hall. There's a guest in the Seacraft Hall looking for you. He said he has something to ask you." 2 minutes. A deep and low voice came from the headset. Shortly after, the Seacraft Hall's door was pushed open. A smile appeared on Manager Li's face as his eyes glanced at Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiu. He faintly felt that Tan Xiu was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen him for a while. "Hello, two guests. I'm Li Chunlei, the Clear Lake Club's dining hall manager. May I know what questions the two of you have? You should be able to contact Huang Su given your level," said Long Zhengyu. "Please contact him and tell him that a friend surnamed Long from Star City has come." Li Chunlei hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, "Please wait for a moment, Mr. Long. I'll immediately contact our boss for you." After saying that, he went straight out of the hall. A few minutes later, however, he returned to the hall again with a forced smile on his square face and said, "I'm really sorry, but I can't get through to our boss's phone. 2 hours ago, our boss was here, but I asked around and found out that he had already left in a hurry." "Forget it since he's not here," said Long Zhengyu. "Go ahead and busy yourselves. Tell the kitchen to cook faster. I'm starving. Please enjoy your meal," Li Chunlei said with a smile and then left with the suited woman, Hu Wenwen. Outside the hall, a displeased expression appeared on Hu Wenwen's face as she followed Li Chunlei and whispered, "Manager Li, isn't that Long guy too arrogant? Since he knows our boss, he's still talking to him as if he's giving orders. It's really infuriating." Li Chunlei shot a meaningful look at Hu Wenwen and said, "Little Hu, you're not someone who hasn't seen the world. Can't you see that the identity of that young man surnamed Long is not simple? Based on his tone and temperament, it was obvious that he was someone who often gave orders. As for his clothing, although it wasn't a common luxury brand, I had seen the logo before. It was a custom-made British apparel, and each piece cost more than 6 figures. As for the other one..." When Hu Wenwen heard Li Chunlei's words, a look of surprise appeared on her face. She hesitated for a moment before asking, "What about the other one?" Li Chunlei lowered his voice and said, "I'm afraid the identity of the other one isn't simple either. I think he looks familiar, but I can't remember where I've seen him before." However, as the young man with the surname Long spoke, he glanced at him several times, as if he was very concerned about his existence. As for that young man's watch, I just observed it. It's from the Farron's brand, an extremely low-key but very expensive brand. It's made in Switzerland, and it's a limited edition worldwide. There are a total of 99 pieces, each of which is worth more than 5 million yuan. Hiss! Hu Wenwen sucked in a breath of cold air as a look of shock appeared on her face. A watch? More than 5 million yuan? I'm absolutely not mistaken. Li Chunlei nodded. I observed them several times when I was in the Seacraft Hall. So don't think that they're arrogant. Those who can come to our place and dine on the 4th floor are all rich people. Also, you've overlooked a serious issue, which is the reason why you're dissatisfied with them. What issue is it, Manager Li? Asked Hu Wenwen immediately with a humble look. You must be well aware of the identity of the major shareholder of our Clear Lake Club, Boss Huang, said Li Chunlei. But that young man surnamed Long actually dared to call him by his name. What does that mean? Hu Wenwen was stunned. She instantly understood what Li Chunlei meant. He dared to call the boss's name and claimed to be the boss's friend, which meant that his origin was extraordinary. His meaning was very obvious. He wanted to tell the boss that he was coming and asked the boss to come over. I've learned a lot, Manager Li, Hu Wenwen said gratefully. Li Chunlei nodded with satisfaction. He gently patted her shoulder and said, Remember, our guests are the gods here. As long as they are willing to spend money here, try your best to satisfy them no matter what their request is. Hu Wenwen nodded without a word and suddenly said, Manager Li, that Mr. Long just said that he wants God's nectar. Li Chunlei raised his brows. After a moment of silence, he solemnly said, Since he dares to ask, then we dare to give it to him. The price of God's nectar in the market is 18,888 yuan per bottle, but it's 30,000 yuan per bottle here. Go ask them how many bottles you want later. All right. Hu Wenwen quickly nodded. At the Seacraft Hall, Tan Xiao smoked a cigarette and looked at Long Zhengyu, who was nestled on the sofa, and said with a smile, Your attitude just now made me feel that you're a playboy, a silk pants. I'm just a small supervisor. You don't need to order me around, do you? My state of mind is a bit lacking compared to yours. Long Zhengyu lightly smiled and said, I'm just annoyed that she thinks we don't have money. Tan Xiao said with a smile, Think about it from another perspective. Maybe she doesn't suspect that we don't have money, but she wants to save money for us. In fact, I think it's a crime to waste money on eating, drinking, and having fun. Long Zhengyu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. I really don't dare to compliment your concept. What's the point of living? What's the point of working so hard to make money? People need basic necessities to live, and the money they earn is to provide services for their basic necessities. I think that living comfortably is also a lifetime of being stingy is also a lifetime of living. Why don't you let yourself live happily? You should eat and drink. No matter how much money you have, you can't bring it with you when you're alive, and you can't take it with you when you're dead. Different pursuits. Tan Xiao secretly sighed inside and didn't refute Long Zhengyu's words. 100 people had 100 ways to live, and Long Zhengyu's idea was not a small number. In the hall on the 1st floor, Du Yunjia's face was gloomy and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. The few youths around him were all silent with their heads lowered. One of them had a bright red palm print on his face. It was obvious that he had just been slapped. Hello, young Master Du. A waiter respectfully greeted him. Du Yunjia directly threw the cigarette butt on the floor and stepped on it, saying in a deep voice, Same old rules, 7th Seacraft Hall. In addition, tell Chen He that I want it and ask him to send someone to bring me a few bottles of God's nectar. That's right, also send me the Cuban cigars I left here. The waiter stared blankly and quickly said, Young Master Du, the 7th Seacraft Hall already has a guest. We thought you checked out when you left, so the staff has cleaned up the leftovers in the 7th Seacraft Hall. Du Yunjie abruptly turned around and angrily shouted, Who said I checked out? This big daddy just went out to do something. Can't I come back and continue eating now that I'm done? What the hell are you doing? The waiter hurriedly bowed his head and said, I'm really sorry, young Master Du, how about? I ask someone to reopen the 12th Azalea Hall for you? As for the God's nectar and Cuban cigars you want, I'll go get them for you immediately. Du Yunjia's eyes were a bit bloodshot and a vicious aura exuded from his body. Recalling the humiliation he suffered today, he tightly clenched his fists and shouted fiercely, "This big daddy wants the 7th Seacraft Hall today. I'll give you 10 minutes to clean up. Tell the people inside to get lost. Else, don't blame me for being impolite to you." Upon hearing this, the waiter quickly conveyed Du Yunjia's request and threat to his leader through the wireless headset. A few minutes later, Li Chunlei walked over with an obsequious smile. "Young Master Du, I thought you had left, but I didn't expect you to come back. I just heard from the people below that the 7th Seacraft Hall has indeed been booked. Can you change it to another one?" With a face full of anger, Du Yunjia gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Cut the crap. I've booked the Seacraft Hall, so it must belong to me tonight. I don't care what method you use, but immediately make the people inside scram, else the reputation of your Clear Lake Club will become very bad tomorrow." Li Chunlei was silent for a moment. He wanted to take out his mobile phone to call his big boss, Huang Su, but he recalled that his big boss had turned off his phone, so he could only call his second boss, Qin Shen. "Tell the 2 guests of the 7th Seacraft Hall to change their rooms. Du Yunjia has been stimulated tonight, so it's best not to provoke him." "Understood." After receiving the order, Li Chunlei quickly told Du Yunjia and the others to wait for a while and then hurried to the 4th floor. He knocked on the 7th Seacraft Hall's door and walked inside. After looking at Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiao, he forced a smile and said, "I'm really sorry, the 2 of you. Our staff was negligent and gave the reserved room to you. Can the 2 of you forgive us and have a meal in the 12th Azalea Hall? Our boss said that we'll give you a 50% discount for your consumption here." "Change rooms?" Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu exchanged glances. Immediately after, Long Zhengyu abruptly got up from the sofa and said in a deep voice, "What do you mean by this? Your staff made a mistake and you want us to bear the consequences? 50% discount, that's really generous. Do you really think we don't have the money to come here? No. How can we dare to have such a thought?" Li Chunlei hurriedly said, "This is just our compensation and apology to the 2 of you. 2 bosses, please help me and don't make things difficult for me, okay?" Looking at Li Chunlei's appearance, Tan Xiao secretly sighed inwardly. He got up and patted Long Zhengyu's shoulder, saying, "Forget it. They have already expressed their stance, so let's not force them. It's the same no matter which room we eat in. Let's go and change rooms." Chapter 602. Tan Xiao's consideration won Li Chunlei's favor. Although he had already guessed that Tan Xiao's identity was not ordinary, he didn't have the slightest air of a playboy at such a young age, which made him think highly of Tan Xiao. Recalling the arrogant and despotic Du Yunjia, Li Chunlei compared him with Tan Xiao and found that the difference between the 2 was like the clouds and the mud. "Thank you. Thank you very much," said Li Chunlei gratefully. With a faint smile, Tan Xiao pulled the somewhat reluctant Long Zhengyu and walked out of the Seacraft Hall's door. It was not Tan Xiao's character to haggle over trivial matters. It was just a meal, so it was all the same no matter where it was. Besides, didn't you hear what he said? 50% off. In the corridor outside, Du Yunjia and several youths slowly walked in. Du Yunjia, who was in a very bad mood, saw Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu coming out of the Seacraft Hall, and a chill flashed in his eyes. When Li Chunlei came out of the Seacraft Hall's door, Du Yunjia stepped forward to greet him. He pointed to Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu, who passed by them, and said, "We'll pay the bill with them for our stay here tonight." Li Chunlei stared blankly and his face immediately turned cold. He frowned and said, "Young Master Du, isn't it inappropriate for you to say that? These 2 guests are easy to talk to and are willing to give you the Seacraft Hall, but I hope you don't push your luck. After all, this Clear Lake Club is not run by ordinary people. They occupied my hall, so what's the problem with paying the bill?" Du Yunjia sneered. "Do you want to use Huang Su and the others to pressure me? Young Master Du, you're a big shot, and small people like us can't afford to offend you," said Li Chunlei. "You can use this Seacraft Hall first. As for who will pay the bill, it has nothing to do with me. Just wait for my boss to come back and let him decide." Du Yunjia sneered and turned to enter the Seacraft Hall's door. At this moment, Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu stopped and clearly heard the conversation between Du Yunjie and Li Chunlei. Wait. Long Zhengyu turned around with a cold expression on his handsome face as he lightly said, "We can pay the bill for the Seacraft Hall, but I don't know what you'll pay after enjoying it." Du Yunjie was taken aback. He looked at Long Zhengyu as if he was looking at an idiot and sneered, "Do you really want to know what price we have to pay?" "I really want to," Long Zhengyu said indifferently. Du Yunjie pointed to the door of the Seacraft Hall and said, "Since you want to know, come with us. Let's go inside and have a good talk about what we'll pay. Do you dare?" Long Zhengyu turned to look at Tan Xiao and seriously said, "It's my fault today. I shouldn't have brought you here. Since he wants to play, how about I perform to relieve his boredom?" Tan Xiao also felt that Du Yunjie was too much of a bully. Asked Wang Su back. "Forget it. Since you don't want to go, then I'll deal with it myself." Wang Zidong shook his head and forced a smile. Ring, ring, ring. His phone rang again. Seeing that it was Chun Chunlei calling, Wang Zidong immediately angrily asked, "Are you done yet? I'm about to go there." "Are you with the big boss, young Master Wang?" asked Li Chunlei quickly. Wang Zidong directly hung up the phone. He had just said it, yet Li Chunlei still called him. It was simply stupid. Clear Lake Club, Seacraft Hall. After entering, Tan Xiao took the initiative to walk to the corner of the sofa. After sitting down, he lit a cigarette and quietly watched the show. He was perfectly aware that Long Zhengyu also knew some martial arts. Though he wasn't very powerful, he could still knock down 2 or 3 punks. "What's your name, brat?" Du Yunjie glanced at Tan Xiao and immediately asked Long Zhengyu. "You're not qualified to know my name," sneered Long Zhengyu. "Let's talk about this matter first. How do you want to solve it?" Du Yunjie was furious. He directly grabbed the ashtray and smashed it at Long Zhengyu. Upon seeing that Long Zhengyu dodged it, he immediately shouted, "Beat him up. If I don't beat him until he crawls out today, this daddy will crawl out today." A cold glint flashed in Long Zhengyu's eyes. After dodging the ashtray, he stabilized his body. His arms instantly grabbed the coffee table and forcefully flipped it over, smashing it toward Du Yunjie and the several youths. Fuck! The youths' complexions greatly changed. They were caught off guard and the 2-meter-long coffee table smashed their calves. The pain made them furious. However, Long Zhengyu had already pounced forward. His fist fiercely punched a youth's face and then knocked down the other one with his body. As the 2 youths fell to the ground, Long Zhengyu fiercely kicked their faces. Fuck! The other 2 youths reacted at this time and simultaneously pounced toward Long Zhengyu. However, both of them were the kind of guys who had their bodies hollowed out by wine and women. In just a few seconds, they were beaten down by Long Zhengyu. Even after Long Zhengyu knocked down the 2 youths, the 2 who had just been knocked down by him had blood flowing out of their nostrils and mouths. Long Zhengyu then violently beat them up. Du Yunjie was dumbfounded. Never in his dreams did he expect that the 4 companions he brought would turn out to be such trash. They had joined hands, yet they were beaten down by a guy. He knew that he was not good at fighting. Therefore, when he saw Long Zhengyu's footsteps approaching, he hurriedly called out, "Wait a minute." Long Zhengyu stopped. But in order to prevent the other 4 from getting up, he fiercely kicked the heads of the 2 youths next to him and directly knocked them out. He then turned his head to look at Du Yunjie and sneered, "What? Are you afraid?" Du Yunjie clenched his fists and angrily said, "I, Du Yunjie, have never known how to write the word, afraid. I admit that you can fight, but being able to fight doesn't mean that you're awesome in today's society. If you have the ability, let me make a phone call. You'll know the fate of offending me in half an hour at most." Long Zhengyu frowned. Although his Long family was very powerful in Star City and his father also had a lot of connections in Blue City, but this was Blue City after all. As the saying goes, a strong dragon can never suppress a local snake. If this guy had a great background in Blue City, it would be very difficult for him to get away. With a cigarette between his fingers, Tan Xiao smilingly said, "Zhengyu, I think you should let him make a phone call. Fighting one-on-one is nothing. It's an all-out fight that's more interesting. Long Zhengyu glanced at Tan Xiu. His furrowed brows immediately stretched out as a smile appeared on his handsome face. He nodded and said, "Young Master Du, right? Since you want to call for help, then hurry up. We haven't eaten yet, so we don't have much time to waste with you." Although Du Yunjie looked angry on the surface, he was actually very nervous inside. He was afraid that the other party wouldn't give him a chance to make a phone call and would beat him up. If he were to be beaten, even if he were to get back at them later, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to avoid suffering. Perhaps, the news of him being beaten would spread in Blue City's circle. "Hello, Qiangzi. Bring some men to the Clear Lake Club." "All right." The other party replied and directly hung up. Du Yunjie coldly glared at Long Zhengyu before he turned around and walked to the other side of the sofa and sat down. More than a minute later, Li Chunlei pushed the door open and came in from the outside. When he saw the scene in the living room, he was slightly stunned and his complexion drastically changed. He didn't expect that a fight would break out inside just after he made a phone call. The outcome was beyond his expectation. The 4 companions brought by Du Yunjie were all beaten down. 2 of them were curled up on the floor and screamed in pain, while the other 2 were lying motionless on the floor like dead dogs. Fortunately, Du Yunjie wasn't beaten, else things would have been too difficult to end. Li Chunlei thought to himself, "I'll repay the debt today. Thanks to the 3 months of rewards from the Union Master. So at least until midnight, brothers and sisters, please pay the monthly ticket." Chapter 603. The Clear Lake Club had a lot of security guards with good quality. However, Li Chunlei didn't call them because he was well aware of Du Yunjie's identity. He also guessed that Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiu weren't simple people. Facing the current situation, his expression turned very serious as he said, "Everyone, I believe you are well aware of the principle that one must take care of his own affairs. I'm the club's manager, so I have to shoulder the responsibility of security. I've already informed our shareholders about the conflict between you, and he'll be back soon. I hope you can control your emotions before he comes back and don't make this matter known to the outside world." After that, he didn't stay in the Seacraft Hall since he couldn't afford to get involved in a power struggle between people of this level. Neither did he dare to side with either side. The most important thing to do was to protect himself. 10 minutes later, Wang Zidong came to Li Chunlei with several big and burly men and lightly asked, "Where are they?" Li Chunlei pointed to the Seacraft Hall's door and forced a smile. "They're all inside." Wang Zidong strode into the door. He was stunned when he entered because he didn't expect that the situation inside would turn out to be like this. The 4 brats with Du Yunjie were all lying on the ground. His eyes glanced at Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiu before he nodded to Du Yunjie and asked, "Are you all right?" Du Yunjie shook his head and coldly snorted, "Zidong, I hope you won't intervene even though today's matter happened in your Clear Lake Club. We'll solve the problem between me and them on our own here in the Seacraft Hall." Wang Zidong couldn't help but smile. He then looked at Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiu and asked, "How should I address the 2 of you?" Tan Xiu just smiled and didn't speak, whereas Long Zhengyu squinted his eyes and lightly asked, "Shouldn't you introduce yourself first before asking us?" Wang Zidong couldn't help laughing and said, "Brother, are you from another city? I'm afraid there are only a few people in Blue City who don't know me, Wang Zidong." Long Zhengyu sneered, "We're from the countryside, so we don't have much experience. Please don't laugh at us." Wang Zidong slightly furrowed his brows and the smile on his face faded as he lightly said, "A strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. This is Blue City. Even if you have a powerful background in other places, you'd better restrain yourself here. Give me some face, and you guys can discuss a solution in a friendly manner." Young Master, Tan Xiu suddenly said with a smile. "We will naturally give you face since this is your turf. However, why don't you ask this kid if he's willing to give you face?" Du Yunjie abruptly got up from the sofa and angrily shouted, "They're too arrogant, Zidong. If I don't cripple them today, I, Du Yunjie, will never let this matter go. If you still regards me as your friend, I will of you and of Tang. I will of you. Young Master Du, you're making things difficult for me." Wang Zedong said with dissatisfaction. Kai of Chang of du, Tang, Chang and you know of Chang's Chang of Kumachin said, Chang, of Chang, you know what of you Tang. Xiangzi should be here soon with his men. You should know what kind of personality he has, said Du Yunjie in a deep voice. However, if you want me to let this matter go, I can do that. Make them kneel down and apologize to my 4 brothers, and then pay a few million in medical expenses. Then, this matter will be settled. Wang Zedong fell silent. He knew who the Xiangzi Du Yunjie was talking about was. He was a well-known and ruthless character in Blue City. Relying on his formidable martial strength, coupled with the fact that he had won over a group of desperados, there were not many people in Blue City who were willing to provoke him. Du Yunjie's family had an official background, and Xiangzi relied on Du Yunjie's backing, so he was naturally willing to work for Du Yunjie. Half a minute later, Wang Zedong sighed and looked at Long Zhengyu, asking, Did you two come to Blue City by yourselves? Didn't you bring anyone else? Long Zhengyu said lightly, Just the 2 of us. Wang Zedong shook his head and said, If that's the case, I advise you to do as he said. Kowtow and apologize, and then take out a few million yuan as compensation. Then we can forget about this matter. Long Zhengyu grinned and said, Interesting, really interesting. What if I refuse? Wang Zedong said with all seriousness, If you refuse, I think it will be very difficult for you to walk out of the clubhouse with your limbs intact. So, I'm doing this out of kindness. Tan Xiu was a bit angry inwardly. Whether it was Du Yunjie's arrogance or Wang Zedong's good intention, both made him loathe them from the bottom of his heart. He hated these juniors of aristocratic families and their silk pants style. After lighting up a cigarette, Tan Xiu lightly said, Thanks for your kindness. If there's nothing else, you can go and do your business. Wang Zedong's complexion slightly changed. He shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and said in a deep voice, 2 gentlemen, since you insist on doing this, then don't blame me for not reminding you that we won't be responsible for anything that happens here tonight. After that, he walked out of the room. Li Chunlei had been following behind Wang Zedong. After coming to the corridor, he quickly caught up with Wang Zedong and said in a low voice, Young Master Wang, there's something I didn't tell you on the phone before you hung up the phone. Those 2 guests from outside the city claimed to be young Master Huang's friends. Wang Zedong stared blankly for a moment before he rolled his eyes and said, That Huang Su fella has a lot of friends. Who knows where they came from? However, despite saying so, he still asked, How much do you know about those 2 fellas? I only know that one of them is surnamed Long. Li Chunlei shook his head and said, I don't know about the other one. Surnamed Long? Wang Zedong stared blankly for a moment. He took out his mobile and dialed Huang Su's cell number. After finding that he couldn't get through, he dialed another person's number and said, Give Huang Su the phone. After a while, Huang Su's voice came out of the phone. It's me. What's the matter? Do you have a friend surnamed Long? Asked Wang Zedong. At this time, Huang Su, who was still in the villa complex, frowned upon hearing the question. He waved his hand to a young man behind him, signaling him to take over his position. Then he walked to the side and said, Why did you ask this question out of nowhere? There are 2 young men in the clubhouse who are fighting with Du Yunjie, said Wang Zedong. The 4 friends that Du Yunjie brought along were badly beaten. I heard from Li Chunlei that those 2 young men claim to be your friends. Huang Su's expression changed and he said in a deep voice, I see. I'll rush over there at once. Remember, before I arrive, you must stabilize the situation for me. All right. Wang Zedong replied with a puzzled expression. Huang Su's expression was very unsightly at the moment. He took out his mobile from his pocket, only to recall that his phone was broken. He immediately took someone else's mobile and dialed a cell number. After hanging up the phone, Wang Zedong returned to the Seacraft Hall. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Long Zhengyu's mobile ring. Long Zhengyu had just lit a cigarette. He took out his mobile and looked at the caller ID, only to find that it was an unfamiliar number. However, he still picked it up and lightly said, Long Zhengyu speaking, who's this? Where are you, young Master Long? Huang Su's voice came out of the phone. Long Zhengyu crossed his legs and sneered, Young Master Huang is in a good mood today. You even care about where I am? Do all the silk pants young masters of Blue City think that I, Long Zhengyu, am easy to bully? Do you also want to join in the fun? Huang Su took the phone with a forced smile on his face. Through Long Zhengyu's words, he had already guessed who had a conflict with Du Yunjie. Young Master Long, it's all my fault. I made you get bullied in my territory. Just wait for me, I'll rush over now. I'll apologize to you when I get there. Forget about apologizing. We're still hungry. Long Zhengyu said indifferently. Since young Master Du's people haven't arrived yet, tell your people to make us something to eat first. Otherwise, we won't be beaten down by others, but will be starved instead. Huang Su hesitated for a moment and said, I'll give the order right away. That's right, you said is. You still have the leisure to care about this now? Long Zhengyu angrily shouted. You've made a fool of yourself today because of you. Had I known earlier, I wouldn't have come to this broken place of yours. After that, he hung up the phone while panting with rage. Huang Su was dumbfounded. He had known Long Zhengyu for a long time, yet he had never seen him so angry like this. He even forgot to give his phone to his friend at the mahjong table and hurriedly rushed out. At the Seacraft Hall, Wang Zidong was also stunned. He never expected that Huang Su would call him just as he returned to the hall. What surprised him the most was that the young man called Long Zhengyu's tone was very angry and didn't give him any face at all. In a flash, he suddenly had a feeling that Du Yunjie would be out of luck today. Du Yunjie was also stunned at the moment. He was usually a very smart person, but he was too angry today. He had suppressed the evil fire in his heart and had nowhere to vent it, so he burned the fire on Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu's head. But when he heard the call from Long Zhengyu, he realized that the caller should be Huang Su. He wasn't afraid of Huang Su, but he was very afraid of him. Less than half a minute later, Wang Zidong's cell phone rang. As soon as he answered the phone, Huang Su's voice came from the other side of the phone. Zidong, immediately tell the people in the kitchen to prepare food for my friends, and send it to them as soon as possible. Remember, their identities are very special. Before I arrive, you must stabilize the situation for me. Wang Zidong opened his mouth, but he suddenly didn't know what to say. Recalling what he had just said to Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiao, he gulped down his saliva and forced a smile. What the hell are you doing? Had I known that they're your friends, why would I rush here in a hurry? Forget it. I got it. After hanging up the phone, he immediately looked at Li Chunlei and said, these two guests haven't eaten yet. Immediately tell the kitchen to prepare the meals as fast as possible and then send them here. What's going on? Li Chunlei was dumbfounded, and so was Du Yunjie. The climax is coming. Brothers and sisters who want the quiet night to explode the monthly votes quickly !! Chapter 604. Wang Zidong ignored the thoughts of others and looked at Long Zhengyu with a complicated expression. He forced a smile and said, Young Master Long, I hope you don't mind my bad attitude just now. In any case, I hope the two of you won't have an accident in our club. I have a very bad impression of your club, said Long Zhengyu indifferently. Those who come here are our guests, and you are responsible for the safety of your guests. However, there are also exceptions. You're afraid of power and have no power in Blue City. Wang Zidong was a bit embarrassed. Long Zhengyu's words were not pleasant to hear, but he knew that he was right. He didn't do it because he was afraid of Du Yunjie's identity. Therefore, he immediately said, Young Master Long is right. Our club is naturally responsible for the safety of our guests. We didn't take good care of them before, but such an incident will never happen again. Long Zhengyu wanted to say something, but Tan Xiao stopped him. Young Master Wang, is it? Tan Xiao said with a smile. Let's not talk about these mundane things again. We'll compensate you for the damage caused by the Seacraft Hall being smashed into a mess. How about this, you take them out first? Don't worry, we'll never leave this place and wait for his people to come. Otherwise, we'll eat later. You can't just stand and watch, right? Wang Zidong nodded and looked at Du Yunjie. Du Yunjie had seen arrogant guys before, but he had never seen such an arrogant one. They beat their own people, Yet they still dared to eat and wait. He guessed that Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu had some status, else it would be impossible for them to be friends with Huang Su. But where was this place? It was Blue City. It didn't matter if they were dragons or snakes, as long as they were in Blue City's territory, they would have to coil around it. I'll give Zidong some face and let you eat to your heart's content. I hope you won't be beaten out of your stomach later, said Du Yunjie coldly as he turned around and walked out. As for the two young men who had been beaten up badly and the other two who had been knocked unconscious, they were carried out after calling security guards. The messy Seacraft hall was temporarily cleaned up by the waiters. The tea table that was pushed down was also straightened, but there were a few cracks on it, as though it was a witness to the fight that just happened. Along with the delicious dishes, even 2 bottles of God's nectar were delivered. Tan Xiao was fine. After all, lunchtime was quite late, so he was not very hungry. Long Zhengyu got up at noon. He ate an apple and then ran to the Long's dining hall to wait for Tan Xiao. Originally, he was going to have dinner at the Long's dining hall, but in the heat of the moment he tricked Tan Xiao to come to Blue City. Up until now, he hadn't eaten a hot meal, so he was absolutely starving. Therefore, he wolfed down his food. In the next room, Du Yunjie sat on the sofa with an ashen face and smoked. Wang Zidong crossed his arms and looked at Du Yunjie from time to time with sympathy in his eyes. He didn't expect that just 1 or 2 hours ago, Du Yunjie had provoked 2 hedonistic young masters from Shanghai. One of them had an uncle who was the second in command of Shuangqing province. Therefore, even though he was in his own territory, Du Yunjie was still humiliated. Some of the companions he brought with him were kicked a few times, while others were slapped. And the result? Huang Su, who happened to meet him, was ridiculed by the other party because he helped to say a few words. They simply didn't give him any face. Now, he had unexpectedly provoked trouble in the Clear Lake Club. Although he didn't know the young man named Long Zhengyu, he knew that the person who could make Huang Su so nervous was definitely not an ordinary person. Perhaps, Du Yunjie had kicked an iron plate tonight. Zidong, what did Huang Su say to you on the phone just now? Du Yunjie had been restraining himself, but he finally couldn't bear it anymore and asked. Wang Zidong replied indifferently, I asked 2 questions. First, the other party is his friend. Second, they have a very strong background. Du Yunjie frowned and coldly snorted. Even if they have a strong background, they still have to behave themselves in Blue City. I don't believe that they have a bigger background than that surnamed Zhang. Even if their background is not as big as that surnamed Zhang's, I'm afraid it's not easy to provoke them. Wang Zidong shook his head and said, I've clearly inquired about the matter between you and them. Speaking of which, you're the one who provoked them first. I hope you're mentally prepared. This matter will be very difficult to resolve. Do you think I'm afraid of them? Asked Du Yunjie in a deep voice. Wang Zidong sighed inwardly and said, Let's not talk about whether you're afraid or not. But I think you should tell your big brother about this matter just in case. Do you think I still have the face to tell my big brother? Du Yunjie snorted coldly. That surnamed Zhang actually has a background in Blue City, and it was my big brother who helped me solve it. If I were to look for him now, would I still have the face to stay in Blue City? Wang Zidong fell into silence. He and Du Yunjie were old friends, so he tried to persuade him. But since Du Yunjie didn't want to listen, then this matter had nothing to do with him. In any case, Huang Su kindly helped him with the betting tonight, so he was clear about one thing. He couldn't easily intervene before he figured out the other party's background. It was best to hide at the side and keep silent. Shortly after, Huang Su hurriedly returned to the Clear Lake Club. After asking where Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiao were, he hurried over without stopping. When he met Li Chunlei in the corridor, he called him to a secluded corner and asked him about the whole story, which made him very angry. That fucking Du Yunjie. Why did he make this father lose face? Huang Su angrily cursed and was about to go to the Seacraft Hall to apologize to Long Zhengyu, when Li Chunlei said in a low voice, Boss, Du Yunjie and young Master Wang are in the next room. Do you want to see them first? Huang Su stared blankly and thought for a moment. He felt that he should reprimand Du Yunjie first, and then take him to the Seacraft Hall to apologize. Creak. The door of the next room was pushed open by Li Chunlei and Huang Su walked in with a sullen face. His eyes glanced at Wang Zidong's face and then fell on the ashen-faced Du Yunjie. Then he indifferently said, "Considering that we were old friends and also considering that your big brother once helped me, I'll give you a chance. Immediately follow me to the Seacraft Hall to apologize to them. Otherwise," Du Yunjie was infuriated by Huang Su's words. He slapped the table and suddenly stood up, angrily shouting, "Huang Su, whose side are you on? Apologize to them? 2 country bumpkins? Do I, Du Yunjie, still have no face left in the future?" Huang Su squinted his eyes and coldly said, "I think your face is not as valuable as your life. That's right. Maybe they're country bumpkins from the underworld in your eyes. But I want to ask you something. If the other party is determined to go against you, how much power does your Du family need to use to destroy the Long family of Star City? How much is your Du family willing to pay for you?" Star City's Long family? The one that has developed rapidly and has become the first family in Star City? That Long Zhengyu fellow is from the Long family? I can tell you that Long Zhengyu is Long Hanwen's eldest son and the future successor of the Long family. Huang Su sneered. He's very powerful. Nearly half of the Long family's business is managed by him, and he's highly regarded by Long Hanwen. If the Long family and your Du family were to fight, Long Hanwen would definitely not hold back and use all the family's power for his son. What about your Du family? Du Yunjie's breathing stagnated as his complexion turned cloudy and uncertain. He knew that what Huang Su said was reasonable. Although the Long family was only in Star City, their strength was absolutely terrifying. If it was really like what Huang Su said, that he and Long Zhengyu had a falling out, it was likely that his Du family would never be willing to go to war for this matter. However, he was absolutely unwilling to bow his head and apologize. Du Yunjie was silent for a while. Then he raised his head with difficulty and coldly said, "Looking at your face, Huang Su, I'll end this matter here. Tell them to come here and make things clear." Huang Su seemed to have realized that this was probably Du Yunjie's bottom line. He felt somewhat helpless inside, but still said, "If you want to reconcile with them, then come with me." Du Yunjie hesitated for a moment before he got up and said, "Let's go." Seacraft Hall. Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu were having a meal. Upon seeing Huang Su push the door and enter, a smile appeared on Tan Xiao's face. He quickly glanced at the indifferent Long Zhengyu and greeted Huang Su with a smile. "Brother Tan Xiao?" Huang Su was dumbfounded. He had imagined a lot of people who would come with Long Zhengyu, but he never thought that this person would turn out to be Tan Xiao. Something had happened. Huang Su was perfectly aware of how ruthless and cruel Tan Xiao was. He was also aware that Tan Xiao was not only the big boss behind the magnificent Tang Corporation, but also the imperial capital. Slap! Huang Su suddenly turned around and fiercely slapped Du Yunjie's face behind him. He angrily cursed, "You bastard have caused me to die today. I, Huang Su, have done a lot of shameful things. But today, even now, I can't wait to find a hole to burrow into." "What?" Du Yunjie was dumbfounded. What did he say just now? Tan Xiao pointed to the nearby sofa and smilingly said, "Zhengyu didn't eat much today. Let's wait for him to finish eating and then talk about it." Huang Su squeezed out a smile and nodded. He then pulled the dumbfounded Du Yunjie and helplessly sat on the sofa at the side. At this moment, Du Yunjie finally woke up from his daze. He subconsciously raised his hand to touch his cheek that was slapped. Anger exploded in his chest. He took a step back, pointed at Huang Su and cursed, "Huang Su, are you crazy? Just spit it out if you have something to say. Why did you slap me?" Huang Su also angrily shouted, "Shut the fuck up. Get the fuck and sit next to me." Du Yunjie's eyes were filled with anger as he angrily yelled, "Huang Su, you're a fucking bastard. You're always siding with an outsider. I, Du Yunjie, have seen through you. I'm afraid of you, but I'm not afraid of you. You want to stand up for them, don't you? Why don't you come after me then?" Sorry, the update is a bit late. Today, the 3rd chapter is presented to you. Please continue asking for monthly votes. Chapter 605. Huang Su closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The moment he opened his eyes again, he looked at Tan Xiu and forced a smile, saying, "Brother Tan Xiu, I'm really sorry about today. My face hurts too much and I really don't have the leisure to do anything. Just do whatever you want to do." Tan Xiu put down his chopsticks and smilingly looked at Huang Su, saying, "I had some scruples before. This is your turf after all. Since that's the case, then I won't be polite with you. Do as you wish." Huang Su nodded with a face full of shame. Tan Xiu grabbed the half bottle of God's nectar on the table and walked a few steps toward Du Yunjie under the watchful eyes of the public. Upon seeing the flustered expression on Du Yunjie's face, he retreated a few steps back and then said with a smile, "Actually, it's just a small conflict today. Today was just a small conflict, but you relied on your own territory to bully others. So before the person you called comes, I'll give you a long memory to not be so arrogant in the future." His voice faded away. Tan Xiu dashed forward and instantly appeared in front of Huang Su. As the bottle smashed on Du Yunjie's head, wine and blood splashed at the same time. A few seconds later, just as Du Yunjie staggered and almost fell to the ground, Tan Xiu's huge palm fiercely slapped his face, directly sending him flying into the hall's door and heavily crashing to the ground. "Aya!" A mournful scream came out of Du Yunjie's mouth. Tan Xiu shook his head and forced a smile. "You only have such little ability, yet you still dare to stir up trouble everywhere. You're really courting death." At this moment, Long Zhengyu finally put down his chopsticks and casually glanced at Du Yunjie, who was bleeding on the head and lying on the ground. Only then did his gaze fall on Huang Su. He coldly snorted with resentment and said, "Young Master Huang, you've really pushed the blame clean. I tricked Tan Xiu to come to Blue City in the snowy day and came here to support you, but it turned out to be bloody bad luck. Look at my face, it hurts even from a slap. Before I came here, I even bragged to Tan Xiu about how capable you are now and how awesome your club is. Look at the result?" Huang Su was so embarrassed that he almost wanted to find a hole to hide in. He bitterly said, "Young Master Long, I'm really sorry for what happened today. I won't apologize today. After this matter is over, you'll see how I perform, okay?" Only then did Long Zhengyu roll his eyes and snort, "At least you're sensible. But what happened to your phone? I kept calling you, but I couldn't get through." Huang Su's lips shivered a few times as he helplessly said, "This topic of yours really reminds me of the shameful thing that happened 2 hours ago. It was Du Yunjie, this idiot, who provoked the 2 young masters from Shanghai. Who would have thought that they also have a deep background in Blue City? As a result, my phone was smashed by them and I was even ridiculed by them." Long Zhengyu said in surprise, "From Shanghai? Didn't Tan Xiu spend the past half a year in Shanghai? Tell me, what's their background?" "He's Zhang Xiaolei, the eldest son of Shanghai's Xinjiang Group's big boss, Zhang Yueming. The other one is Gu Tao, the son of Dingshan Media's big boss. These 2 fellas have very strong backgrounds, especially Zhang Xiaolei. Especially that Zhang Xiaolei. Damn it, the second in command of Shuangqing province is his uncle." Long Zhengyu let out a strange smile and looked at Du Yunjie with a bit of worship in his eyes. He raised his thumbs up and praised, "This dude is amazing. The people he provoked are more powerful than the other. He even dares to provoke the young masters of those 2 companies. I'm convinced. I'm really convinced." After saying that, he looked at Tan Xiu and asked with a smile, "I say, Tan Xiu, you've been in Shanghai for nearly half a year. Do you know these 2 fellas?" "No, I don't." Tan Xiu shook his head. "But I have some friendship with their father." Puff, what? The tea that Long Zhengyu had just brought to his mouth spurted out. Huang Su was even more dumbfounded with a shocked expression on his face. "I met them at a friend's table. It's just a coincidence," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. Long Zhengyu shook his head with a wry smile and sighed. "Tan Xiu, you're making me realize the gap between us more and more. I'm just playing with the kids of those amazing people, but you've already built a friendship with them. If there's a chance in the future, please introduce me to them so that I can improve my status a bit." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "Don't be so shameless. Just tell me, how do you want to play tonight?" Long Zhengyu looked at Du Yunjie, who was crawling up from the ground, and grinned. With your usual way? Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Huang Su, saying, Young Master Huang, what background does this Du brat have? He should have a more powerful backer, right? Blue City's Du family is ranked in the top 5. Huang Su said with a wry smile. Tan Xiu nodded and said, Do me a favor and call the Huang family's people. Tell them to come and pick him up. Tell them to give them an hour. If they don't come in an hour, they'll have to wait to collect this Du brat's corpse. Huang Su's heart thumped. He quickly got up and walked toward the door. He looked deeply at Du Yunjie, who was still clutching his head and feeling a bit dizzy. He shook his head and walked past him. After coming outside, he dialed Du Yunjie's eldest brother, Du Yunlong's phone number. Is there anything else, Huang Su? A cold voice came from the phone. There's something. It's a big deal. You'd better contact your dad or the most powerful person in your Du family. Your younger brother has stirred up trouble in my clubhouse. Big trouble. This bastard. Who did he provoke this time? Du Yunlong cursed angrily. Long Zhengyu from Star City's Long family and Tan Xiu from Star City, said Huang Su. Du Yunlong was silent for a moment and then asked, Tan Xiu? Which Tan Xiu is it? Huang Su forced a smile and said, You should have heard his name, right? Which other Tan Xiu can make you ask me like this? Come quickly. The other party said that if your Du family's people don't come in an hour, you'll have to collect your brother's corpse. Afterward, Huang Su hung up the phone and was about to return to the Seacraft Hall. Wang Zidong, who came out from the inside, squirmed his lips and looked hesitant. What do you want to say? Huang Su forced a smile. Wang Zidong quickly glanced at the door and then said in a low voice, Huang Su, I've also heard the name Tan Xiu. He's the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Am I right? Does he also have a powerful background? Huang Su was silent for a few seconds after hearing it. Then he said in a low voice, The other 2 guys Du Yunjie provoked tonight, do they have powerful backgrounds? Amazing. Wang Zidong nodded cautiously. Huang Su sneered and said, Even if the forces behind those 2 guys are multiplied by 10, they're still not as good as brother Tan Xiu. Above him is the heavens. Having said that, he pointed his finger upward. Wang Zidong was stunned. It took him more than 10 seconds to react, and a horrified expression could be seen on his face. He had already thought of the Tang family, the most powerful family in the country. That was the Tang family of the imperial capital. In the past 2 months, a major earthquake had taken place in the country's officialdom, with countless changes in power and various interests. Ultimately, it was the Tang family of the imperial capital that caused this earthquake. Their Wang family was very influential in the Shuangqing province, so he had been paying attention to them. He naturally knew how terrifying the Tang family, who could destroy the Yao family, was. Du Yunjie is done for. Wang Zidong recalled the words he had said to Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu before and couldn't help but force a smile. At that time, wouldn't he be a joke in their eyes? At the Seacraft Hall, Tan Xiu picked up the hot tea served by the waiter. After tasting it, he said, Huang Su, don't let the people of this club stop the people from the Du family when they come. No matter who they are or how many people come, let them all in. Zhengyu is angry inside, so let him vent his anger. Huang Su nodded with a forced smile. A few minutes later, Li Chunlei called Huang Su's cell phone and learned that a Chang had arrived with more than a dozen ruthless men and was rushing to the Seacraft Hall. Bam! The door was kicked open as a bald middle-aged man with several scars on his head came in, followed by more than a dozen fierce-looking middle-aged men behind him. Fortunately, the Seacraft Hall was large enough that they didn't feel crowded even if they came in. Young Master Du. Upon seeing Du Yunjie's appearance, Ah Chang was secretly startled and hurriedly ran to support him. At this time, Du Yunjie's sullen heart had reached its limit. He also knew that today's matter wouldn't end well, so after Ah Chang came to his side, he pointed at Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu and angrily shouted, Beat them to death. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. Ah Chang didn't hesitate to issue the order after hearing it. His backer in Blue City was Du Yunjie. He knew that he would be in trouble if he went against Du Yunjie's will at this time. Stop! Huang Su angrily shouted. However, the dozen people simply ignored him. They pulled out their weapons and rushed toward Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu. Tan Xiu sneered inwardly and his figure instantly rushed forward. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to reveal his ability to cast spells in the eyes of outsiders, he would have already used spells to kill these dozen people. Bam, bam, them. The punches landed on flesh, and the sounds of bones breaking and screams of agony were heard in a short span of a dozen seconds. More than a dozen ruthless men with a foundation in kung fu were all beaten down by Tan Xiu in full view of the public. The most important thing was that Tan Xiu was very ruthless and directly broke their legs. How is this possible? Ah Chang's complexion drastically changed and a horrified look appeared in his eyes. His kung fu was good. Even if he hadn't reached the level of a martial arts grandmaster, he was not far from it. Some of his men had been practicing martial arts since childhood, and some were trained by him. All of them had extremely rich fighting experience. But how did they all get beaten to the ground in just a short span of a dozen seconds? Who are you? Ah Chang angrily asked. Tan Xiu sneered and said, "You want to know my identity?" Ah Chang released Du Yunjie and casually pulled out a pistol from his waist. He pointed the muzzle at Tan Xiu and sneered, "Your kung fu is indeed very strong, but I want to know whether you or my bullets are faster." Tan Xiu had been pointed at by many people with guns, but 99% of them didn't have a good end. When Ah Chang pointed the muzzle at him, he looked as if he was looking at a dead man. "Do you really want to compete?" Tan Xiu asked with a faint smile. Ah Chang's eyes surged with killing intent. Although he was afraid of Tan Xiu's indifference, he would never hesitate to shoot. After all, he had killed more than one person. "You'll have to pay for what you've done sooner or later." He was very clear about this sentence, and he had been prepared for it many years ago. However, he still had the backing of the Du family. Unless the Du family didn't want to protect him, he would be safe and sound. In case the Du family couldn't protect him, he could always run away. He had prepared a way out for himself a few years ago. At worst, he could run abroad. At the side, Huang Su's pupils violently contracted the moment Ah Chang pulled out his pistol. He hesitated for a moment, but he still strode forward and blocked in front of Tan Xiu. He looked at Ah Chang and shouted, "Kill me first if you dare to shoot. Otherwise, put the gun down." Ah Chang was stunned. He never dreamed that the Huang family's young master, Huang Su, would actually block in front of Tan Xiu. He was well aware of the Huang family's strength in Shuangqing province. Even the Du family didn't want to provoke them. If he were to shoot and kill him, the Du family wouldn't be able to protect him. The escape route he had arranged would be useless, and he would be killed by the Huang family before he could even take half a step out of Blue City. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He patted Huang Su's shoulder and lightly smiled. "I appreciate your kindness, Huang Su. But let me deal with this matter. It's just a small fry, no need to be so troublesome." As his voice faded away, his figure behind Huang Su instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, his fingers had already broken Ah Chang's right wrist. As the pistol fell, Tan Xiu's fist hit Ah Chang's face, causing his nose bridge to collapse and his facial bones to break. Even his eyes were instantly bloodshot as he fell backward to the ground. The punch. He was dead. Tan Xiu casually kicked Ah Chang to the corner. Then he leisurely returned to the sofa he just sat on. After sitting down, he lightly smiled and said, "I didn't expect to kill people, but since I've already killed them, I might as well kill more. Young Master Du, right? Let's continue calling people. If they can't fit in here, let's go outside. I'll book the entire Clear Lake Club tonight. The space outside is big enough for us to play." Du Yunjie's body trembled violently. The shadow of death shrouded his heart, making him want to run away. He was very arrogant and insolent, but the premise was that he didn't encounter a ruthless character. But at this time, Tan Xiu was too powerful. More than a dozen vicious and merciless gangsters, each of whom was a big figure in Blue City's gangster circle and could fight, were all easily knocked down by Tan Xiu. Most importantly, Tan Xiu even dared to kill them in broad daylight. Du Yunjie looked at Ah Chang's corpse with a flustered expression on his face. He wanted to escape but dared not. He called for help, but his savior had yet to arrive. Du Yunjie was afraid that Tan Xiu would suddenly change his mind and kill him before his big brother arrived. Huang Su knew that he was in big trouble today after seeing Tan Xiu kill Ah Chang. He glared angrily at Du Yunjie, who was scared out of his wits, and then looked at Long Zhengyu for help. He knew the relationship between Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiu. The only one who could persuade Tan Xiu now was probably Long Zhengyu. Long Zhengyu was silent for a moment before he suddenly shook his head and smilingly said, "Tan Xiu, just wait for the Du family's people to come. If they bow their heads, this matter will be over. But if they don't, then we'll have some fun." "Soft-hearted?" asked Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "It's not soft-hearted." Long Zhengyu shook his head and said, "It's just that we don't need to get into trouble since we came to Blue City to play. Though we're not afraid of trouble, it's better to have less trouble. Instead of fighting and killing, it's better to sit with a few friends and drink and eat meat." "That makes sense." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. That's right," said Huang Su quickly. "I don't have anything else here, but I have plenty of good wine, meat, and other fun things. How about I arrange it for you in advance? We'll wait for the Du family's people to come, and this matter will be over." "No hurry." Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, "I don't think this matter can be easily solved. As long as the Du family still wants their face, I'm afraid they won't let this matter go today. Let's wait. Maybe the people we're waiting for will arrive soon." Immediately, the atmosphere in the Seacraft Hall froze. Except for the heavily injured big men, all of them lay down and gathered around Du Yunjie. Huang Su and Wang Zidong forced a smile and didn't know whether they should sit or stand. "I'll go out and have a look first." Wang Zidong held back for a while before he braced himself and spoke. Tan Xiu glanced at him and said, "It's fine to go out and have a look, but don't talk too much." Wang Zidong had just made a decision to tell Du Yunlong Tan Xiu's identity after he arrived. But after hearing Tan Xiu's words, he immediately dispelled this decision. He was not afraid of the Du family, but he was afraid of Du Yunlong. But if he were to compare Du Yunlong with Tan Xiu, he was more afraid of Tan Xiu. As he walked out of the room, Wang Zidong saw Li Chunlei waiting in the corridor outside. He forced a smile and said, "Inform everyone to clean up the Supreme Hall and prepare good wine and dishes. Also, bring the best tea leaves in my room to the Supreme Hall. You'll need them later." Li Chunlei was secretly startled. Although he had guessed that Long Zhengyu and Tan Xiu's identities were not simple, he didn't expect that they would receive such attention. It must be noted that the number of guests who could sit in the Supreme Hall in the entire Blue City was probably less than 2 hands. "I'll get it done now." Wang Zidong looked at Li Chunlei's back as he left and was silent for a moment. He then gritted his teeth and took out his mobile, wrote a message and then sent it out. On a highway more than 10 kilometers away, 2 cars were rushing toward the Clear Lake Club. In one of the Mercedes-Benz cars, Du Yunlong's mobile phone vibrated a few times. When he grabbed it and read the text message he just received, his expression slightly changed. "Master, Chang is dead." Du Yunlong turned his head and looked at the middle-aged man sitting next to him. Xiao Mingzhen slightly furrowed his brows with a regretful look in his eyes. He then lightly said, "I originally wanted to break into Blue City and subdue Chang for my use. I didn't expect that he would die. Isn't he under the protection of your Du family? Did he provoke a powerful character?" "I don't know." Du Yunlong shook his head. "Before I picked you up at the airport, I learned that my younger brother got into trouble in the Clear Lake Club. He should have called Chang over, so..." Xiao Mingzhen squinted his eyes and said, "You two Du brothers have completely opposite characters. You have big ambitions and great ambitions. You act steadily and have a low-key character. Du Yunjie, on the other hand, is arrogant and despotic. If your Du family can't restrain him in the future, I'm afraid he'll poke a big hole in the basket. My parents dote on him too much." Du Yunlong helplessly said, "Though I've been suppressing him, I've never been able to change his sloppy character. Master, how about you spare some time to teach him later? I believe that as long as you're willing to teach him, he'll definitely grow a lot." Xiao Mingzhen lightly said, "We'll talk about this later. I have a lot of things to deal with recently." Though I don't need to intervene in Star City, the development in the dark has encountered a bottleneck. If I can't break into Blue City, it won't be easy for me to develop in other provinces of Shuangqing Province. Du Yunlong hesitated. Master, there are many families in Blue City. Among them, several of them have a deep heritage and complex network. If you want to secretly control the underground forces in Blue City, I'm afraid it'll be easy for you to encounter resistance from those families if you don't have the support of the big shots in the officialdom. Xiao Mingjin nodded and said, how could I not understand this truth? Just wanting to control a Chang is like poaching people from your Du family. Wanting to control more than a dozen powerful figures in the entire Blue City will cause all the families to unite against a common enemy. However, I have my own reasons. Du Yunlong had always been very confused. He couldn't figure out why his master wanted to control the underground forces in Blue City. Even if he wanted to become the leader of the entire Shuangqing province, he didn't necessarily have to start from Blue City. He had wanted to ask about it many times, but his master had brushed him off, so he could only bury his puzzlement at the bottom of his heart. Master, I broke through to the foundation establishment stage a few days ago. Du Yunlong changed the subject and spoke in a low voice. Xiao Mingjin's eyes lit up as he nodded with satisfaction. Although he was a rogue cultivator, he had 2 disciples. His eldest disciple had been living abroad and would only come back to China during the New Year to pay him a New Year visit. As for his second disciple, he was also in China and would spend at least a few months in cultivation with him every year. Originally, it would take at least a few years for this second disciple of his to break through to the foundation establishment stage. But he didn't expect that his aptitude would be so good that he actually broke through now. You're very good. Maybe you can surpass your eldest senior brother in the future and break through to the golden core stage earlier. Xiao Mingjin nodded and praised. Du Yunlong said with a smile, in fact, this disciple had a good opportunity. I got acquainted with the person in charge of the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical in Blue City and bought several precious medicinal herbs from him. After a period of nourishment with medicinal cuisine, I finally broke through to the foundation establishment stage. Xiao Mingjin was astonished. You mean, the person in charge of the Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical in Blue City sold them to you privately? Du Yunlong nodded and said, that's right. He often detains some precious medicinal herbs. If you need it, I can help you contact the other party. Xiao Mingjin shook his head and said, forget it. If Chen Zhizhong knows about it, I'm afraid it won't be good. Du Yunlong raised his brows and said, Master, with your identity, you still care about Chen Zhizhong? Xiao Mingjin forced a smile and said, I don't care about Chen Zhizhong, but I care about his master. Forget it. Since you always want to know why I want to control the underground forces of the entire Shuangqing province, especially in Blue City, then I'll tell you today. When other great gods went to Kabukicho, Jinya stayed in the hotel and played explosive games. It's all because of the monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 606. Xiao Mingjin glanced at his confidant who was driving and spoke in a voice that only he and Du Long could hear. The reason why I want to rule the Shuangqing province's underground forces is because I want to be closer to Chen Zhizhong's master. I can help him a little if he encounters something that's not suitable for him. What? Du Yunlong was stunned. He looked at his master Xiao Mingjin with an incredulous expression as stormy waves set off inside his heart. So, the reason why his master racked his brains to rule the Blue City's underground forces was actually because, to curry favor with someone? How could this be possible? Du Yunlong knew his master's identity. Not to mention that he secretly controlled the underground forces of a province, he also controlled 2 large companies with a total value of more than 10 billion yuan. The most important thing was that his master was a cultivator with a mysterious and unfathomable power. With such an identity, he actually needed to curry favor with others? Xiao Mingjin sighed in a low voice. Your cultivation is still very low, and your vision is too narrow. Perhaps in the future, you'll know that there are still some people in this world who are stronger than me. Some people's ability can bring me a lot of benefits just by giving me a few pointers. Since you've broken through to the foundation establishment stage, I'll personally take you to see him a few days after the new year. Du Yunlong was shocked by Xiao Mingjin's words. Since he became his master at the age of 5, he knew no other cultivators apart from Miao Wentong of Haiqing province. Now that he had reached the foundation establishment stage, he thought that he was already very powerful and could become an existence that countless people looked up to. Who would have thought that there was someone more powerful than his master in this world? Thank you, master, Du Yunlong said gratefully. He followed Xiao Mingjin to cultivate from the age of 5 until the age of 16. Most of the time, he followed Xiao Mingjin. In his eyes, Xiao Mingjin was even closer to him than his biological parents. Soon, 2 cars drove into the Clear Lake Club. Xiao Mingjin didn't get off the car since there was no need for him to intervene in this kind of conflict between children. As he watched Du Yunlong enter the building, he slowly closed his eyes and pondered whether or not Tang Xiu would take a liking to the thing he had obtained. Seacraft Hall. When Du Yunlong walked in with his 2 men, his brows slightly wrinkled. His younger brother, Du Yunjie, had been beaten miserably, but he didn't take it to heart. In fact, he even thought that his younger brother, Du Yunjie, should suffer a little. Otherwise, if he caused trouble all day long, he would definitely cause big trouble in the future. What he cared about was Chang's corpse on the ground, as well as the miserable appearances of Chang's subordinates. Yunlong. When Huang Su saw Du Yunlong, he immediately stood up from the sofa. With his back to Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu, he gave Du Yunlong a look. Du Yunlong narrowed his eyes and nodded. He looked at Du Yunjie and coldly snorted, "This is the second time tonight, right? Is it really that good to be forced to ask for help?" Du Yunjie wasn't afraid of his parents, but he was afraid of his brother who possessed terrifying strength. Hearing Du Yunlong's words, his lips squirmed a few times before he lowered his head and said, "Brother, I was wrong." Du Yunlong snorted coldly again. Then he looked at Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu and lightly said, "Gentlemen, I know my younger brother's character. I'm afraid that he provoked you first tonight. If it's really as I said, then I apologize to the 2 of you on his behalf. I hope you can be magnanimous and don't stoop to the level of a child like him. There are still some sensible people in the Du family." Long Zhengyu indifferently said, "You don't need to apologize. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. We naturally won't blame you." Du Yunlong nodded and said, "I've already said my apology. Now, let's talk about something else. Chang was under the protection of my Du family. I believe you should be aware of it. Now that he's dead, you should be the one who did it, right? Also, they are seriously injured and some of them should be disabled. The 2 of you are too heavy-handed. I think you should give me an explanation. If we don't have the ability, I'm afraid we'll be the unlucky ones today." Long Zhengyu sneered. "Who will give us an explanation if we're unlucky?" Du Yunlong was silent, but his sharp eyes lingered on the 2 men. Half of Tan Xiu's body was nestled on the sofa. He folded his arms and smilingly said, "What kind of explanation do you want?" "Men fight for power, money, and connections," said Du Yunlong. "But I didn't see you taking advantage of your power to bully others, so I don't feel like using those means. Since you can kill Chang and injure more than a dozen of his men, it proves that your individual strength is good. I'll fight with you. If you win, you can do whatever you want to me. But if you lose, bow your head and admit your mistake, then clean up the aftermath for Chang." "How should I clean up the aftermath?" Tan Xiu asked with a ruminating smile. "You 2 don't look like people who are short of money," said Du Yunlong. "Chang's family will be compensated 10 million yuan, and the rest will be compensated 2 million yuan for their medical expenses." "You're good. You're kinder than me," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Since you said so, I'm afraid I won't be a man if I refuse." With that said, Tan Xiu got up from the sofa. Huang Su's expression changed and he quickly said, "Tan Xiu, it's all right. I'm just playing." Tan Xiu laughed. "Don't worry, I promise I won't kill him." "I'm afraid, Tan Xiu." Huang Su forced a smile. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment. He was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he asked, "You mean you're afraid that I'll be killed by him? Is he very powerful?" He's very powerful, said Huang Su without hesitation. It seems that no one in the entire Blue City is his match. He once beat down 20 to 30 people by himself. He couldn't continue speaking up to this point because he had just witnessed Tan Xiu's means. Tan Xiu was also a ruthless character who could beat more than a dozen people by himself. Du Yunlong said indifferently, "Don't worry. I won't kill him." Inwardly, Huang Su was annoyed by the arrogance of the two Du brothers. He immediately shouted angrily, "Du Yunlong, even if you're more powerful than Tan Xiu, you must lose today. Else your Du family." "Huang Su!" shouted Tan Xiu in a deep voice. Huang Su's body trembled. He turned his head to look at Tan Xiu with difficulty and said bitterly, "He has helped me several times and can be considered as my benefactor. Brother Tan Xiu, can you spare him this time for my sake? I guarantee that he will never provoke you again in the future." Tan Xiu frowned and fell into silence. Du Yunlong, on the other hand, looked at Tan Xiu with astonishment. He was a smart man and realized that Tan Xiu was not as simple as he looked through Huang Su's words. It was very likely that he had a terrifying origin that even Huang Su was afraid of. However, what was the origin of this person who could make Huang Su so afraid? Lan Qing had never seen him before. Could it be that he came from the imperial capital? Upon thinking up to there, Du Yunlong solemnly said, "Huang Su, I think you misunderstood. It's just a contest of martial arts. Regardless of the outcome, the enmity between him and my brother will be written off. If I lose, I'm willing to let them deal with me. If they lose, they'll just have to pay some medical fees. I believe that everyone here is a man, so they can afford to let go of such a small matter." Tan Xiu clapped his hands and nodded with a smile. "Du Yunlong, is it? You're quite a character. Get out of the way, Huang Su. Since he has already put it this way, no matter who wins or loses, I will not pursue this matter any further." Huang Su secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He gratefully looked at Tan Xiu and quickly retreated to the side. A bit of arrogance appeared on Du Yunlong's face as he crooked his finger at Tan Xiu and said, "Fighting with you is actually bullying you. Hence, I'll let you have 3 moves and I won't fight back within those 3 moves. But after 3 moves, I hope you can withstand my moves." Tan Xiu let out a strange smile. He strode forward like an arrow. When he was more than 2 meters away from Du Yunlong, his speed suddenly soared and his palm fiercely slapped the latter's face. Slap. 1 move. Tan Xiu's voice sounded, followed by a loud slap. Slap. 2 moves. Slap. 3 moves. Tan Xiu slapped him 3 times in a row and instantly retreated a few steps. He held his arms and looked at Du Yunlong with a faint smile, saying, "3 moves are over. Why don't you give it a try?" Du Yunlong was stunned by Tan Xiu's 3 slaps. He had now broken through to the foundation establishment stage. Even a martial arts grandmaster was just like an ant in his eyes. If he wanted to, even dozens of martial arts grandmasters were not his match. But how could his opponent have such a fast speed? He didn't even have time to react and was slapped 3 times? Who the hell was he? Du Yunlong's heart was filled with fear, but under Tan Xiu's faint smile, a strong sense of shame grew in his heart. He clenched his fists in an instant and took a step forward. The distance of a few meters was crossed in an instant, and his lightning-like fist hit Tan Xiu's face. Bang! The dull sound was not from Du Yunlong's fist hitting Tan Xiu's face. It was Tan Xiu who lifted his foot and kicked Du Yunlong's chest, directly kicking him 7 or 8 meters away and heavily falling to the ground. Cough! A mouthful of blood was coughed out from Du Yunlong's mouth. It was just a kick, but it had already injured his internal organs. Just at the moment when he bounced up from the ground, Tan Xiu appeared beside him like a shadow and rained punches on Du Yunlong's body. Although only a few punches hit his face, it still made his nose and face swollen. In the end, Du Yunlong's body hit the wall and then fell at the foot of the wall. Tan Xiu deliberately shook his wrist and smilingly said, "Only a few people can withstand my violent beating. Although I didn't use much strength, I did vent a lot of my anger tonight. Du Yunlong, if you still have the ability to stand up, we can continue to fight. But if you can't, it means you've lost." Du Yunlong coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood, but he endured the pain all over his body and propped his arms to get up from the ground. He didn't attack again, but shook his head with shock and fear, saying, "I lost. If you want to kill me, you only need one move to take my life." Lost? I'm sincerely convinced. New week, please vote for me. Chapter 607. Du Yunjia's whole body seemed to be petrified. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that his powerful brother would be defeated. Moreover, he was defeated without any strength to fight back. "Brother," Du Yunlong angrily shouted, "shut up. This matter is over." Du Yunjia turned his head and fearfully looked at Tan Xiu before he silently nodded. Even if he was unwilling, he had no choice but to bow his head under the eaves. He didn't want to die yet. Similarly, he also knew that today's matter would be spread to the entire Blue City's aristocratic circle. He would even be severely punished by his family. But his skill was inferior. Tan Xiu ignored Du Yunjia and sat back on the sofa. He lightly smiled and said, "Your injury is quite serious. But this is just a small punishment for standing up for your brother. Go back and recuperate for a few months and you'll be able to recover." At this moment, Du Yunlong clearly realized that Tan Xiu was also a cultivator, so he didn't have any resentment. He cupped his fists and said, "Friend, I admit that you're very strong now. But give me some time. I believe that I'll surpass you and defeat you sooner or later if I cultivate well." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "It's good to be confident, but don't let your brother come out and stir up trouble again. Since I've met you this time, I've been merciful because I admire your character. Otherwise, let alone letting you go back and recuperate for a few months, I might even cripple you." Du Yunlong's complexion turned serious as he immediately cupped his fists and said, "Rest assured. This kind of thing will never happen again." The conflict finally ended after Du Yunlong was beaten by Tan Xiu. Under the cordial invitation of Huang Su and Wang Zidong, Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu were invited to the Supreme Hall, whereas the Du brothers left in embarrassment. As for Chang's corpse and the severely injured Blue City thugs, Du Yunlong sent his men to deal with the aftermath. In the Mercedes-Benz outside the building, Xiao Mingjun slowly opened his eyes. When his eyes fell on Du Yunlong, who had just returned from the window, his complexion slightly changed. He immediately opened the door and said in a deep voice, "Are you injured?" Du Yunlong was supported by his men and said bitterly, "I lost. My injury is quite serious and I need to recuperate for a few months." Xiao Mingjun was silent for a moment and suddenly said, "Everyone else, leave." In just a short minute, everyone, including Du Yunjie, drove away, leaving only Xiao Mingjun and Du Yunlong at the entrance. At this time, Xiao Mingjun asked in a deep voice, "Is he also a cultivator? Where did he come from?" "He's indeed a cultivator, but I don't know his origin," said Du Yunlong bitterly. "The other party is very powerful. The battle between us is completely one-sided. I don't have any power to fight back." Xiao Mingjun's pupils suddenly shrunk. He stood on the spot and pondered for a moment before he resolutely said, "Since this matter involves cultivators, I absolutely can't stand idly by. Let's go. Take me to him. I really want to know how capable he is." Du Yunlong quickly said, "Master, the enmity between my younger brother and them has been resolved. When I was inside, Huang Su hinted to me that if my guess is correct, the other party is probably from the imperial capital." "Imperial capital?" Xiao Mingjun was silent for a moment before he said, "I understand what you mean. I'm not going to take revenge for you, but cultivators are very strong and overbearing. I'm afraid that the other party still harbors a grudge in their hearts. Therefore, I'm going to see him to thoroughly settle this matter." Upon hearing this, Du Yunlong immediately nodded and said, "I'll take you there." Supreme Hall. Tan Xiu was nestled on the sofa, smoking a cigarette as he watched Huang Su clumsily making tea. A faint smile hung on his handsome face. In fact, he didn't blame Huang Su for today's matter. He even felt that Huang Su was actually a good person apart from being a bit lecherous. Especially after Huang Su stood in front of him to block the muzzle of Ah Chang's hand, which made Tan Xiao somewhat identify with him. Creak. The hall's door was pushed open from the outside. When Tan Xiao saw Du Yunlong coming from the outside, his brows couldn't help but wrinkle. But after he saw Xiao Mingjin following behind Du Yunlong, his wrinkled brows stretched out and was replaced with a somewhat strange expression. Xiao Mingjin stepped into the hall's door. After he saw the people inside, he was slightly stunned. Immediately after, an expression of being at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry was revealed in his eyes. He walked a few steps forward to stand in front of Du Yunlong and then stopped. He pointed at Tan Xiao and asked, "Is he the one who injured you?" Du Yunlong quickly said, "Master, it's him." Xiao Mingjin raised his arm and gently slapped his head. He then scolded with a smile, "You're a lucky brat. You're lucky to have met him. If you had met someone else, I would have already collected your corpse." Du Yunlong was dumbfounded. Listening to his master's words, could it be that he knew the other party? Xiao Mingjin forced a smile and shook his head. He then walked toward Tan Xiao and said, "Brother Tang, today's matter can be considered as a flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to the same level as my second apprentice." Tan Xiao smiled and stood up. He walked over to Xiao Mingjin and hugged him. Then he said with a smile, "I didn't expect that he would turn out to be Brother Xiao's apprentice. However, you have a good vision. This brat's character is also good. He's a good apprentice candidate." After saying that, he reached into his clothes and took out a porcelain bottle from his interspatial ring. Then he threw it to Du Yunlong and said, "Since you're Brother Xiao's apprentice, I should have given you a gift for our first meeting. But there's a small misunderstanding, so please accept this bottle of holy healing medicine. Your injury will be completely healed in 3 days." 3 days? I'll be completely healed? Du Yunlong's expression was blank for a moment before an ecstatic expression appeared on his face. Xiao Mingjin was very satisfied with Tan Xiao's action, so he said with a smile, "Brother Tang, I just learned that someone was able to injure Yunlong. I was curious about the identity of the other party, so I came to have a look. I really didn't expect to bump into you here. Aside from dealing with some private matters, I came to Blue City this time to go to Star City and have a few drinks with you." Long Zhengyu at the side said with a smile, "Uncle Xiao, I also want to have a few drinks with you." Xiao Mingjin said with a smile, "That's natural. Zhengyu, how's your dad? I'm counting on him to take charge of Blue City and make some money." Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "My dad is very good. He often talks about you, Uncle Xiao and Uncle Miao. He misses the days when he drank with you." Xiao Mingjin said with a clear and loud voice, "Rest assured, I'll go and have a drink with him in the near future." Huang Su and Wang Zidong at the side stared blankly. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that Tan Xiao actually knew Du Yunlong's master. Moreover, they even addressed each other as brothers. The most important thing was that their relationship seemed to be very close. However, why did Tan Xiao and the other party address each other as brothers, while Long Zhengyu addressed him as Uncle Xiao? The two men looked at each other. Huang Su then stood up and said with a smile, "Brother Tan Xiao and Zhengyu, since everyone knows each other, then I'll send some people to deliver the dishes and wine. Even if we meet each other by chance, I'll still be the host here." Immediately after, Du Yunlong introduced Huang Su and Wang Zidong to Xiao Mingjin. After all of them got to know each other, everyone drank wine, ate delicacies, and chatted about various topics. The atmosphere was very harmonious. After 3 rounds of wine, Xiao Mingjin and Tan Xiao agreed to meet again tomorrow and then left with Du Yunlong. As for Huang Su, he personally booked 2 suites for Tan Xiao and Long Zhengyu in the clubhouse and settled the 2 of them down. On the never-ending flow of vehicles on the highway, a Mercedes-Benz quickly moved forward. Inside the car, Du Yunlong's bruised and swollen face looked a bit confused. Many times, he wanted to ask about the confusion in his heart, but he swallowed the words back when they were at the tip of his tongue. "Ask whatever you want to ask." Xiao Mingjin took back his vision from the window as he glanced at him and said. Du Yunlong finally asked, "Master, what is Tan Xiao's identity in the end?" "His age shouldn't be older than me. How could he have such a strong strength?" Xiao Mingjin sighed. His identity is very complicated. I'm afraid that what I know is only the tip of the iceberg. But even the tip of the iceberg is enough for me to deliberately approach him and express my goodwill. Do you still remember the reason why I came to Blue City? The person I want to express my goodwill to is him. Tan Xiu. Du Yunlong's eyes stared wide as he said in horror, "What is his identity? To think that he's actually worth you, master." Xiao Mingjin forced a smile and said, "When I first met him, his strength was not as good as yours. But in just a short period of more than half a year, his strength has probably surpassed mine. As for his identity, I'll tell you about it. Do you know about the Magnificent Tang Corporation? He's the big boss behind the Magnificent Tang Corporation." A shocked expression was revealed on Du Yunlong's face. Xiao Mingjin continued, "Tan Xiu is also a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital. According to the news I got, Tan Xiu was the one who killed the Amur tiger. The Yao family in the imperial capital was ruined because of him." Du Yunlong gasped. He secretly felt lucky inside. Fortunately, he didn't completely offend Tan Xiu today. Otherwise, his Du family was afraid. Xiao Mingjin's tone suddenly turned particularly serious as he lowered his voice and said, "What I said is only about Tan Xiu's very ordinary identity. He also has another identity, the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. I didn't tell you about the existence of the Everlasting Feast Hall before because I was afraid that you would have bad thoughts in your cultivation. But now, I must tell you that the Everlasting Feast Hall is a terrifying force. If you run into the Everlasting Feast Hall's people later, you must only make friends with them and not be enemies." Du Yunlong quickly asked, "Master, what's so terrifying about the Everlasting Feast Hall?" Xiao Mingjin faintly sighed and said, "Its terror lies in the fact that up until now, no one has figured out how terrifying the Everlasting Feast Hall's strength is. No one knows how many cultivators the Everlasting Feast Hall has." Du Yunlong's body trembled as a chill rose inside his heart. Such a terrifying force, perhaps none of the families in the country would be able to compare with it, right? The strength of cultivators was absolutely terrifying. If the Everlasting Feast Hall had a large number of cultivators, then suddenly, Du Yunlong realized that Tan Xiu was the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. Today's first chapter. Please continue to ask for monthly votes. Every 100 monthly votes will add one chapter _. Chapter 608. The news of Tan Xiu's arrival in Blue City didn't spread out due to the conflict in the Clear Lake Club. After Huang Su learned from Long Zhengyu that Tan Xiu was on fire again, he immediately informed every employee in the club who had seen Tan Xiu to block the news. Therefore, Tan Xiu's stay in Blue City was very comfortable for the next few days. There was no media to disturb him, and there were no messy things to deal with. Every day, he drank some wine, ate some delicacies, and stayed in the guest room to read and cultivate. His days were very fulfilling. It's snowing again. Inside the most luxurious suite in the Clear Lake Club's guest room, Tan Xiu stood by the window and looked at the fluttering snowflakes. He sighed faintly inside. Not counting the 10,000 years in the immortal world, every time it snowed, it was the most difficult time for him and his mother before he turned 18. In particular, the heating issue was so serious that it was like being tortured. Knock, knock. The door was knocked, pulling Tan Xiu back from his memories. He waved his hand and released his primal chaos force, gently opening the door. "Come in." Long Zhengyu, who was standing outside the door, was surprised to find that the door was cracked open. He pushed the door and entered. When he saw Tan Xiu standing by the window, he immediately froze and looked at the door suspiciously. Then, he looked at Tan Xiu and immediately entered the room with a bit of a daze. "I'm leaving, Tan Xiu." "Then let's go back together," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. "It's been 4 or 5 days, so it's time to go back." Long Zhengyu quickly waved his hand and said, "No, I'm going to Nine Dragons Island." Long Zhengyu quickly waved his hand and said, "Because of your request, all the workers can't return home, so the necessary benefits must be distributed." "When will you come back?" asked Tan Xiu. "A week at most," said Long Zhengyu with a smile. "Bring Mu Qingping and Yining back when you come back," said Tan Xiu. You're really good to your treasured disciple, said Long Zhenyu with a smile. Tan Xiu didn't say anything more because Long Zhenyu didn't understand the special nature of the sects of cultivators. A teacher for a day is a father for life. In the immortal world, the elders of the sect were sometimes more important than the biological parents. Parents can accompany you for a while, but not for a lifetime. As for the seniors of the sect, their cultivation bases were powerful. They had been in the immortal world for thousands and tens of thousands of years. The feelings they had accumulated year after year were extremely deep. As Long Zhenyu left, Tan Xiu looked at the falling snowflakes outside and hesitated whether he should return to Star City now or not. His parents were still in the capital. As for what they were doing, he wasn't sure. There wasn't much difference between returning to Star City and staying in Blue City. Forget it, let's stay for a few more days. At least there's someone here to serve us well. Tan Xiu sneered and reached out to close the window. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly, and his gaze fell through the window onto the parking lot 100 meters away. To his surprise, he actually saw a familiar face. Li Xiaoqian? She seemed to have gone to the Regal Classical Music Academy. Now that the school should be on holiday, shouldn't she go back to Star City? How come she's here? Also, those people around her don't look like her classmates and are older. Could they be her family? Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. He had almost cut off contact with Li Xiaoqian ever since he graduated from high school. It was only when he was with Qing Yannan that he learned some things about Li Xiaoqian from Qing Yannan. Thinking about Qing Yannan, Tan Xiu was a bit surprised. After he went directly to the imperial capital from Jingmen Island, Qing Yannan stayed in the Everlasting Feast Hall. Later on, she went to Clam Island with the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Could it be that she hadn't come back yet? Tan Xiu grabbed his mobile and dialed Qing Yannan's number. The result was that the call couldn't be connected for the time being. He recalled Qing Yannan's bitter experience, as well as the missing Qing Xueme. He secretly felt sorry for the sisters' rough and tumble life. He was once like them, suffering the torment of life with his mother. Now that he had come out from that dark world, they were still trapped in it. I'll help them if I have the chance. Closing the window, Tan Xiu got up and walked toward the door. He had been holed up in the suite all day. Although he didn't feel bored, he still wanted to go out for a walk. As for suddenly seeing Li Xiaoqian, Tan Xiu didn't want to disturb her. Since their time as classmates had ended, everyone had their own life trajectory. He didn't belong here in the future, so he wouldn't have too much contact with them. Half an hour later, Wang Zidong, who had been living in the suite next door for a few days, was yawning on the sofa out of boredom. The Playboy magazine in his hand and the pretty girl on the cover couldn't make him feel energetic. These days, he really wanted to get close to Tan Xiu and cultivate their relationship. Unfortunately, Tan Xiu was holed up in the suite every day. He could only see him a few times during meals. Forget it, I'll find a girl to talk about life with. Wang Zidong jumped up, grabbed his coat, and walked out of the door. When he came out of the building, his handsome face suddenly changed. His originally dull eyes also revealed an infatuated look, which set off his face, making him look like a love-struck fool. Only a dozen meters away from him, in front of the Hummer with a domineering aura, a girl in black leather clothes and black sunglasses leaned against the car key in her hand. Her perfect face and devilish figure gave her a wild sense of beauty. Stunning. Wang Zidong thought he had seen countless women, but he had never seen such a hot girl who could move his heart. After a dozen seconds of sluggishness, he came to his senses and rushed toward the girl. Hey, beauty, do I have the honor to invite you for lunch? Oh, that's right, let me introduce myself. I'm Wang Zidong, one of the shareholders of this Clear Lake Club. Ouyang Lulu raised her hand and pulled down the frame of her sunglasses. She looked at Wang Zidong and then casually said, "Do you know any girl more beautiful than me?" Wang Zidong stared blankly for a moment before he shook his head and smilingly said, "No." Ouyang Lulu asked again, "Then, do you have tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of assets?" Wang Zidong was a bit embarrassed, but he still shook his head and said, "Nope." Ouyang Lulu looked at him contemptuously and asked again, "What about your fame? You don't need to be too famous." You just need to be a household name in our country. Wang Zedong's lip squirmed. He was quite famous in Blue City, but he was not a star. How could it be possible for him to be a household name in the country? He shook his head and said again, "Nope." Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes. Although she was still flirtatious, her words were not pleasant to hear. "You don't have anything, so why would you invite me for lunch? Hurry up and leave. I don't like embroidered pillows." Embroidered pillows? Wang Zedong was dumbfounded and tongue-tied as though he couldn't believe his ears. This wild and stunning chick in front of him actually said that he was an embroidered pillow? Suddenly, Ouyang Lulu seemed to recall something. She looked at Wang Zedong again and said, "Forget it. It's not like I can't give you a chance. As long as you do me a favor, I can let you accompany me for lunch." What favor? Wang Zedong was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "Do you know Tan Xiu?" asked Ouyang Lulu. "It doesn't matter if you don't know him. You're a shareholder of this club, so it should be easy for you to inquire about him. Take me to him." Wang Zedong stared blankly at Ouyang Lulu. He opened his mouth and suddenly had a bad premonition. With a bit of probing tone, he asked after a while, "Are you looking for Tan Xiu?" "You and him?" "I'm looking for him. He's my man," said Ouyang Lulu. "Kacha?" Wang Zedong seemed to be able to hear the sound of his heart breaking. It was very difficult for him to be moved by those women. But today he finally met one, and she turned out to be Tan Xiu's woman. This was really a dogshit. Had it been someone else's woman, he would have dared to snatch her even if it was Huang Su's woman. But for Tan Xiu's woman, even if he was given 100 times more courage, he would never dare to have even half a thought of touching her. Wang Zedong straightened his attitude and hid the throbbing in his heart. He then said with a smile, "It turns out to be sister-in-law. Tan Xiu should be in his room. Let's go. I'll take you to him." "Sister-in-law?" Ouyang Lulu's mouth was outlined and a satisfied smile appeared on her beautiful face. It was just a title, but it made her favorable impression on Wang Zedong increase a lot. The duo came to the door of Tan Xiu's suite. After knocking on the door for a long time, they didn't get any response. Therefore, Wang Zedong contacted the club staff. After asking, he learned that Tan Xiu had gone to the movie hall. Inside the fully heated and luxurious movie hall, Tan Xiu was nestled in the last row of chairs, drinking fragrant tea and watching the movie on the big screen in front of him. Due to his 10,000 years of experience in the immortal world, he wasn't interested in the scenes shown in the movies. However, Western sci-fi blockbusters still gave him a lot of inspiration. The power of science and technology. Nowadays, the power of science and technology on Earth was very weak. He had seen more powerful technological races before, but it was after he became a supreme in the immortal world. Therefore, the technology of these technological races was nothing to him. However, the interstellar war shown in the movie gave him a feeling that if the power of science and technology was developed to the limit, even those powerful thermal weapons could become a powerful armed force of Star City. For example, the interstellar battleships. If they could manufacture hundreds of millions of powerful interstellar battleships, they would definitely be able to sweep countless starfields. The immortal world was like the Eastern Xianxia. The technological races were like the sci-fi blockbusters. Tan Xiu was perfectly aware of the power of military force. But if he could learn from their strong points to offset their weak points and combine it with the power of science and technology, wouldn't he be able to accumulate a stronger armed force in a short time? It's a pity that I didn't get any technology from the technological races I saw in the Hanging Snail starfield. Otherwise, Earth's science and technology could definitely advance by leaps and bounds and reach the lowest level of the universe's technological civilization. However, I can still design some small things. Even if they are gadgets, if they appear on Earth, they should cause a huge sensation, right? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.